Hello and welcome to Too Fast, Too Forever. There's all kinds of family. We chose this one. This is episode 118, Fast and Furious Lap 7. I'm Joey Lewandowski.
I'm Joe too. And this episode's brought to you by Kenra Professional's Nitro Memory Cream 18. Nitro Memory Cream 18 is approximately 10 times denser than a typical mousse. A little product goes a long way. So always start with a small amount and add as needed. Shout out Kenra Professional's Nitro Memory Cream 18.
Well, shout out Kenra and welcome to Fast and Furious. Later in this episode, we've got Nico and Kevo talking about Los Bandoleros and Fast and Furious. We got before we do anything else, two programming notes. Number one, minor one. We planned to do deleted scenes for this because I just assumed, given how many there were for the first two movies, wrongly so. I should never assume in this podcast, but wrongly so, that there were deleted scenes for every movie. There are not. As far as we can tell, both on the Blu-ray and on YouTube, no deleted scenes for this movie, which is kind of weird, but maybe not. I don't know.
If you find any, send them.
Yes, please. family@cageclub.me. Also, for future reference, from what I can tell, there are deleted scenes or extended scenes or alternate takes or whatever for every movie here on out except 8. 8 has a couple extended fight scenes. There's the prison break scene, and there is the plane save, like the saving Baby Brian. But I think that those two are I think they're already in the extended version. So when we get to Fate, we're not going to have, we're just going to be like a normal intro. We're not going to do deleted scenes. But for 5, 6, Tokyo Drift, 7, and Hobbs and Shaw, there are deleted scenes. And also, like I told you, I think Hobbs and Shaw has like 35 minutes of deleted scenes, which is like insane. That's a 2 hour and 40-minute movie then.
Yeah. Plus, those are the ones that they just released to you, not even including like the ones that aren't.
Yes. And weird. I think they clarify it as like saying it's deleted or extended or alternate, so it might not be 35 minutes of new, it might be, who knows what. But we'll get to that when we get to that. So that's number one. So this episode, instead of doing deleted scenes, we're going to do a Fast and Furious Minute. We're going to do an episode of Lost. But number two, the more important, the bigger one, the cooler one, is that this Friday we were going to do Catherine Bigelow's Strange Days. We are not doing that. We're pumping the brakes. We're going to do that later this lap. So we're going to get to that later. The reason we're pumping the brakes. So this is also, we're recording on a Monday. This episode comes out tomorrow, or really actually tonight as I'm recording this. So I'm going to spend some time in the lab tonight. But the reason we're recording today is because yesterday we had a conversation that ran super, super long, and we were thrilled to announce, I guess, question mark?
And we didn't want to stifle the conversation, because you'll hear why.
And I also, there's been multiple times we've recorded since we knew this was going to happen, but I didn't want to jinx it. On Friday, we are talking to the game director of the video game Fast and Furious Crossroads, and we go deep. So we do all the normal either ors, rank your movies, everything. Like, this dude is a huge Fast and Furious fan. Andy Tudor, it's great. So we got 45 minutes up front. I mean, who knows what'll be edited down, but there's a lot up front of just our normal nonsense. Then we talk about the game for 2 hours, again edited down a little bit, and then we do the character quiz. So it's a full-blown episode, and I am thrilled to bring it out. I mean, I haven't started editing yet. It's going to be a big endeavor, but Joe, I'm excited.
It's probably the best interview we've done, right? It was.
I think it's the only interview we've done, really.
Yeah, but I meant it feels monumental. He's very close to the Fastiverse, including writers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He's a huge fan, as Joey said, so he's very knowledgeable. It made me feel good that they they put the hands of the game in someone so knowledgeable and so just friendly. Also, he's just a cool dude, but yeah, we talk a lot about the game and the franchise and maybe a little bit about 9. Maybe, and what he might know about 9.
And we didn't really go into this, but it seemed like they kind of not auditioned or petitioned, but it seemed like they wanted this project because he is, and a lot of the people he works with seem to be very big Fast and Furious fans. So it seemed like a passion project that they wanted to do. So we get into that. So if you have not. So here's the thing. So you can watch on YouTube right now, full game walkthroughs if you want. The story is probably about 3.5 hours long, which we talk about the length on the episode, so stay tuned for that. You almost kind of don't have to. I think you should, because especially if you're so into the Fastiverse that you're listening to us 5 hours or 4 hours or whatever a week, you're going to want to experience the story. But we basically cover all of the major stuff, a lot of the minor stuff, a lot of the Easter eggs. So even if you have not played the game, if you don't plan to play the game, you've not watched the walkthrough, Friday's episode will kind of cover most of that. But if you have 3 hours between now and the time you listen to that episode, go to YouTube, go to my Twitch stream, and I think the archived versions of the 3 times I streamed are all saved on there for a little while longer. I think.
Yeah.
I don't know how Twitch works, but I think it's there. So check it out, and then come back on Friday.
Because the thing that we talk about is we don't really spend a lot of time talking about the gameplay. We talk about the cutscenes and that
it's the story,
like,
yeah.
the story and how he created new canon of the Fastiverse and like what that means and why did he pick these characters or why did he have them say this as opposed to this. So that part's interesting, and you might be like a little left out if you didn't see the cutscenes, but I think that you could get through it without them.
Kind of accidentally, like, when we have a new movie come out, we know when we can kind of plan, and we're like, okay, we're going to do immediate reactions, then we're going to do spoiler free, then we're going to do spoiler and give you 2 weekends. This episode will come out basically 2 weeks after the game came out. So it's like far enough away that if people wanted to have played it or watched it, they can. I know we're only giving you like a 3-day notice, but check it out on YouTube, Fast and Furious Crossroads, or, buy it or rent it or whatever.
I was going to hint to Nick, because Nick's been sending us pictures of him playing. I was going to hint to Nick, like, you might want to finish the game before Friday, but I figured he would listen to this episode. So wrap it up, Nick, if you're still playing, and get it finished and get ready for Friday.
Yeah, I saw that you messaged him on Facebook saying, you're going to keep an eye out for Friday. So he said, I will. So yeah, it's coming. It's coming. It's coming. But
it's coming.
Joe, extracurricular activities, we kind of have to keep it short because I have a lot of things to edit between now and Friday. But
That's
what
fine.
have you been up to since we last chatted about, well, I guess with Nico and Kevo about this episode?
I went to visit Rachel's parents. That was it. Went, hung out, got to see them. It felt nice to just talk to them and hang out. So that was pretty much it. That's what I've been doing all weekend. We left like late last week and got back today. So yeah, that's what I've been doing.
Have you watched anything of importance? Anything, your favorite thing that you've watched in the last like week or so, or is there not really?
Honestly, we didn't watch too much TV. I put sports on in the background at their house, but we bullshit. We play games. I didn't really use my phone too much. I don't know. I was just distracted. We were drinking, talking, bullshitting. They got a new house, so we were like hanging stuff up and putting mirrors and this kind of stuff. So you were like distracted with like the workflow of it. So I had like hockey games on in the background, but like I didn't sit down. I don't think I sit down and watched one show while I was there or movie or anything.
Look at you guys changing it up, mixing it up. Whew.
Yeah, man, gotta keep it fresh.
I'm trying to think if there's anything of note that I've done. Have you seen the movie Swordfish?
The Halle Berry.
Yes.
Halle Berry's boobs in this one.
Yes.
Was the thing. Yes.
Have you seen the movie, or have you just seen that scene?
I might have seen the movie when I was a kid. It's John Travolta, but I just remember the pop culture of like, this is the movie you get to see Halle Berry's boobs, right? Like, that was what it was in like SNL and all kinds of stuff.
So that's the only thing that I knew from it. I didn't know what it was about.
I've seen it because they hack, and when they're hacking, he like draws a virus with cubes on the computer, right? Does this sound familiar?
I might have missed that. This was me kind of like, because How Did This Get Made covered it this past week, and so I watched it for that, and I asked the Tub Talk guys, I was like, is it worth, like, it's kind of like the peak stupidity of like 90s, but it's 2001, but like 90s action. It's just like all the dumb tropes kind of in one. Like, it makes no sense. It doesn't really try to make sense. It opens with Travolta being like, Hollywood movies are shit, and here's why. It's like, well, what do you do? Like, I know what you're doing, but like, what are you doing? A lot of it is dumb. Like, I think it's objectively bad, but the final action set piece, like the kind of the getaway sort of, they do something that I've never seen it before in a movie, and so it is crazy. It's on Netflix now. If I don't watch it. Hugh Jackman is the hacker, and in the movie he's kind of like made to be like a nerd. It's like, no, he's a gorgeous man. Like, he's not. What are you talking about? Like, because Halle Berry's like trying to seduce him. Like, oh, she's way out of your league. It's like, no, they're both. And they talk about this on how no, they're both beautiful. Like, they're both beautiful people. Like, they're not out of, like, one's not out of the other's league. They're both the
Successful
most beautiful
actors.
people. Yes, exactly. But yeah, like, it's just dumb fun. What I appreciated was that it was only like it was like an hour 45. Like, it's relatively short for what that could have been. Again, not good, but basically, as I've been watching more baseball and whatever and doing whatever and sort of watching fewer movies and shows, that's kind of all I've watched, which is, one other thing I do want to say. Lovecraft Country started on HBO.
I saw you tweeting about it. Yeah, how was it?
Which is really, really, really good.
I saw somebody else talk about it too, so.
Produced by Jordan Peele and J.J. Abrams. It's a contemporary story. It's set in the 50s, but it's kind of a contemporary story of, like, racism in America, but also with the added bent of, like, H.P. Lovecraftian creatures and stuff.
That's what it was, yeah.
So the episode starts with, like, the main guy at war, and then it becomes, like, this, like, colorful hellscape of Lovecraft, and then it kind of smash cuts to sort of like everyday life. And you're like, oh
Okay.
my God, like that, the intro, there's one particular image, and I'm not going to spoil for you, but there's one thing that I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And it's just like so weirdly specific and amazing. And I know that's why they did it, kind of for the gif of it or the meme of it or whatever, but like, check it out. I think if you like horror stuff, if you like timeless, unfortunately, can't believe that small town America could be this terrible to black people, like,
Yeah.
it's that kind of Jordan Peele analysis of the society, what everything. Like, it's just really well done. And the big thing to me is that like in a year where there's like no new TV and like really very little good new TV, it's like this is like a shining example of like, oh, there's still good stuff. So in that regard, I was very happy.
That's awesome. Yeah, I dig it. One last thing I wanted to say is that just because I've been thinking about it, and two of our fans, I think it was Ben and maybe Nick, both wrote in about Dan Cummins, the comedian. We watched his special and it was great. So thank you for the recommendation. I'm gonna check out the rest of it.
Oh, it was Nick and Alex.
Thank you guys. I'm gonna check out more Dan Cummins. You were 100% right. He's really funny. He's good. I like it a lot. So it was
Cool.
fun. Yeah, thank you.
Joe, we have a Patreon page here on the show, Too Fast, TooForever.com. Shout out to Cassie Wilson, Jake Freer, Ben Millman, Nick Burris, Alex Ellenin, Justin Kleinman, Brian Rodriguez of High School Slumber Party, Haley Gerbies, Wes Hampton, Christian Larson, and Jerry Robinson for supporting us at the $5 level or above. Thank you all so
Thank you
much.
guys. We
I do want to
appreciate it.
say, based on that list and based on the show, I think Brian teased it while he was on here, but just this past week, I think Friday's episode, Christian Larson joined him to talk about Corvette Summer, the movie starring Mark Hamill. So that episode is now out. If you want to check that out, car movie from the 80s with Luke Skywalker. What's not to love? With two people who have been on the show, who are going to
That
be on the
love
show
cars,
again.
love Fast and the Furious. Yeah.
We also have an email address here on the show, family@cageclub.me. We've got two emails. First up from Hector, and I'm not going to read this verbatim because he emailed in about the Bachelorette car picture, and he had sent in Bachelorette car pictures, and the way that he answers my question, because there's some confusion, because remember he sent in car pictures, he sent in a bunch of car pictures, and then he sent in ones that were for Bachelorette, and I think I remember being confused about something.
Yeah, you said which ones? And he was
Exactly.
like, use these three, and then he said, "Oh, this one instead." And yes.
And so either I misunderstood or I saw the wrong thing, or maybe he misunderstood, but he basically says he didn't write in because he didn't understand what I was asking, but he wants to do the three together. But then I looked back at the email that he had sent earlier, the Bachelorette picture, and there's three cars in there. So I don't know if I just saw the wrong thing or like there's miscommunication or whatever, but like Hector, I think we're all good. We will do that for sure at some point in the future. I don't know when, but we'll do for sure the Bachelorette game again. So no worries there. Thank you for writing back in. And Joe, our other email today is from friend of the show, Wes Hampton. Subject line, Paul Verhoeven week. What up, fam?
What up, Wes?
It says, what a week for movies on the podcast. Two classics by a cinematic maniac. I didn't realize what Paul Verhoeven had meant to my life until you started listing off his movies, and I went back and looked him up. Thinking back, I'm not sure I didn't make the connection between his movies. He definitely has a style.
He definitely has a style.
And I especially love both of these and also haven't seen the remakes. Anyway, here are some things.
Okay.
He says, guys, don't worry. I don't have any trivia to add to RoboCop, but thanks for thinking of me. Because I was saying that there's so much, and please don't. But I mean, did he finally get resolution? His thing was approved, right? Finally?
I think so.
Or maybe not. I don't remember. Like, it's been so long that I don't remember.
It goes back and forth. I think like one time he got approved and then it didn't get put up or something. I don't remember. Like it just the joke is that IMDb won't let Wes put up one fact that he's like proven 50 times to them now. So
yeah. He says, I don't remember why you mentioned Griffin Newman. We did because he had RoboCop in his top 4, and I follow him on Letterboxd. Wes says he seems like the nicest guy. You also mentioned he played Arthur in The Tick, and even though Arthur is the Tick's sidekick, he's the lead of the show, and I can't recommend it enough. It was really great, and I was very sad when it was canceled. Everyone was fawning over The Boys, but if you want an alternative take on the superhero genre that's better written, has more heart, and is unique and clever, The Tick is it. So I've been looking forward to it. I've been looking forward to it since Griffin Newman was on Comedy Bang Bang. I think I mentioned that when we talked about him, but yeah, I've not seen either of those. But yeah, people love The Boys, but I heard really good things about The Tick, so check it out.
Cool. Yeah.
Joe, he says now, some friends bought Mrs. West the Back to the Future game a few weeks ago and left it at our door. It's a lot of fun, and it's pretty clever how they work in a time travel affecting the future mechanic. It's also co-op, which I like. We played it on easy and got absolutely destroyed. Biff messed up the whole timeline. It was a travesty. I recommend it.
Yeah, I'll check it out then. We were playing some co-op games. We were playing Code Names with Rachel's parents. They had never played before. Have you ever played Code Names?
I've heard of it. Maybe I have.
You make like a 5x5 square of
Okay.
words. Like they have cards that have all kinds of words on. I think I told you
Oh, is
about
this
it
the
on.
one where you did? It's the Fast and Furious, but you didn't do barbecue
Yes.
or something? Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. And you just like, say a word and then how many you want them to guess.
Yeah.
And it's really fun if you have a partner, like a friend. Like you and I would play well together. Rachel and I would play well because like
Right.
what to say to get me to say what you want me to say, like what word to use. So,
ESPN, I think for maybe just one season, did like an NFL version or maybe just a pro athletes version of like the Newlywed Game. And I remember Carson Palmer and Chad Johnson were on there before he was Chad Ochocinco, before, back when he was still just like one of the best receivers in the league before he like became something more, right?
yep.
And I remember they went on there and like one of the questions was, it's not exactly a code name thing, but it's just like in each other's minds, like what is his order at McDonald's? And I don't remember exactly what it was, but I remember one of them said like Coke no ice, and like it was like exactly like the order like exactly like every modification and everything like they knew it's just like this weird like quarterback receiver combination. Like they must have gone to McDonald's a bunch, and it was just like a very like, oh, that's like a kind of a really adorable weird thing to know about like a teammate, but it's awesome.
Exactly. But no, if you got it and you're like, why'd you get no ice, dude? And he's like, come on, I always get no ice. They're trying to cheat you out of the, soda.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, that's what would happen.
I think that was the first time I was like, oh, I guess you could even modify that. So now I just get, when I get a soda at a place like that, I just go Coke light ice, which doesn't always happen, but just a little bit of ice. Because like I don't want, it melts too
Yeah.
quick and it gets too watery, but I feel like light ice is perfect. Wes says, wow, Joey, you went down a real Joe 2 style rabbit hole in the whole Dom Letty wedding inception recall idea last episode. I don't know if that bodes well for the direction this show is going. Between Joe, Nico, and Kevo, someone has to keep a clear head and steer the ship. No, well, don't worry.
That's
I got
100%
it.
true.
Captain
Yeah.
on board. Given that I'm the one who edits it, like I know, I like as any of us are talking, I'm just like, oh nope, this has gotta steer it back because we gotta, whoop.
Yeah, Joey's really good at reining it back in. Between Nico and Kevo and I, this lap especially, it can get real weird.
Although I will say that this episode, I was not sure if I should leave it in or not, but I wound up leaving it in. But this is the real first look into what we call Nicopedia, where just Nico has such a fountain of knowledge about so many things, specifically music, I think, but like comic books and whatever, that we go on a huge Beth Orton tangent at the end of this episode that I left in
yeah.
because I was like, I don't want to just cut out like 8 minutes because like it's interesting. Like, it eventually ties back into cars, and we talk about Spotify. You'll hear it all, but I was just like, do I cut this out? Like, I guess I should, but like, and then I left it in.
It's really
So,
interesting. Yeah.
it doesn't make any sense for the show, but also the show doesn't make any sense for the show sometimes. So
True.
you know.
Very good point.
It says, I didn't know that Total Recall was based on a Philip K. Dick short story, but I can totally see it now. A few years ago, I went on a Philip K. Dick kick. I read 3 or 4 of his books in a row, and I really liked his style. My favorite was probably A Scanner Darkly. Well, if you want more about that, check out Keanu Club.
I love that movie. Rachel hated it. I remember I made her try to watch it with the cell shading, and she was not a fan. I've never read it, but I mean, like, watching it was fun for me.
I enjoyed the movie. I think Winona's also in that, and so they covered it on Winona Forever too. I remember that, like, and again, I don't know if they just, I don't know where they got the inspiration from, but I'm pretty sure you see cel shaded Keanu's dick, and so that was like a big. We're like, oh my god, like you see nudity on Keanu. Like it's not actually Keanu nudity, but it's just like, oh my god, like
Exactly, yeah.
that was my big in my brain, like the takeaway from A Scanner Darkly. Also, we got RDJ before Iron Man. Good movie.
Yeah.
Wes says, I vaguely remember the movie, but the book was such a mindfuck that I loved it. I'm reading a Ray Bradbury novella right now called The Halloween Tree, and I love his sci-fi for its sort of whimsical nature, but Philip K. Dick stories are much more likely to convince me that I'm living in a simulation headed for self-destruction, and I kind of love that.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Have you read any Philip K. Dick or Ray Bradbury or like Heinlein or any of those guys?
I've definitely read some Ray Bradbury. I read 451 for sure. I read Do Robots Dream of Electric Sheep. I've read some of The Man in the High Castle, but never like the super famous ones, I don't think.
I'm trying to think. Like, I read a couple Heinlein ones. I read Fahrenheit 451. I bought a bunch of his. Oh, also, I guess it's not quite that, but like adjacent is probably like Kurt Vonnegut too, right? Like kind of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
sci-fi and.
As I get older, like I don't like reading sci-fi novels. I read them on a plane. That's a good choice for a plane. And like I only like novels on book on tape, like dramatic novels. Usually I read autobiographies, as lame as that sounds. Like that's like one of my favorite things to read, or biographies in general.
I don't really have. I just kind of read like lately. I've just been reading whatever Bob puts in front of me, right? So I'm
Yeah.
reading. I haven't really gotten deep into Flickr yet, but I was talking to Bob about. I'm like I just need to get into it. But Wes says that's it for this week. I'm interested to see what Nico and Kevo make of what's easily the most blah movie in the series. I still love it, but it doesn't lend itself to any wild theories the way the others do, though I'm sure they'll find a way. Until next time, stay furious, Wes.
Well, they do find a way, so.
And they kind of, I think they're sort of rightfully so a little disappointed in it, and you'll hear that. But there's a lot to talk about for sure. You see the link in this episode. There's more than enough to talk about with those guys.
Amen.
Joe, on the streets, any Fast and Furious news that you have seen since, or heard about, or read about, or whatever since we last spoke?
No. Nothing that I thought about.
I think so. I mean, we actually talk about on Friday's episode about like just trailers in general. I'm like, I feel like we got to be getting kind of. I mean, I guess we're still 8 months out from F9, right? So maybe not, but like
there should have been a second trailer, a la the Super Bowl type situation, right? But it just COVID hit, so we didn't get that like.
I'm guessing. Yeah, I'm gonna guess that we're gonna get some kind of, and I don't know when. And I also don't know if this even makes sense, but I'm guessing we're going to get some kind of like trailer number 2 that's going to be like 2.5 minutes. That's going to be like a third of it is going to be stuff we've already seen, maybe. Yep. And then it's going to be a lot of new stuff. And then I think we're going to kind of get like a remix, kind of a teaser that's like vague and weird and some weird blend of new and old. But I think we're going to get like probably a couple more minutes, I would imagine, of like new content.
I would think so.
I keep thinking that we're closer to it, but we're not. We're still 8 months out, so.
Yeah, exactly.
Hopefully 8 months out. Hopefully it doesn't,
Yeah, seriously.
Boy. If you have any news or anything you want to say, family@cageclub.me, email it in. But Joe, the Ana Lucia Cortez, Leticia Ortiz, Lost for a Minute episode, The Other 48 Days. Now, this is the episode that I had been not teasing, but kind of hyping all season long, right? Like I'm like this. There's going to be one where we get to where it's like this is the one to watch, and I think I don't want to mislead you because I don't remember, I didn't see exactly, but on Lostpedia there's like a list of the episodes and like who's in each one and who's the main character and who has the flashbacks and whatever.
Yeah.
We might get an Ana Lucia episode. I don't remember, but at the very least, we get this where it's kind of like
this is her episode,
kind of in the Jack role, because this episode sees the tailies, the back half of the plane, what they did on the island, basically in the first, what we've seen the other side do for the first like 30 episodes.
Yeah, and it's definitely from her perspective. It's not like a flashback episode because I don't think we get any Letty flashbacks.
No, there's no flashbacks at all. No,
it's just her perspective of like what's been happening. It catches you up on what the other guys were doing, right? It was a really good one. I'm glad I paid attention to this one. I think that like the last one I was just like so bored with Shannon that I just wasn't paying attention. Also, guess what? It didn't really matter because they caught back up and they showed me that...
It matters a little bit, but I did write my final note for this episode is in all capital letters. Now, did you see Ana Lucia shoot Shannon?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
I absolutely did this time.
Because that's actually what the only part of this episode I really didn't like is the last like 4 minutes where it's like catching you up on what we've already seen, like this like really janky, like I think what's supposed to be like this artistic editing style where I'm just like, we don't need any of this. The episode, I think, was a longer one. It was like 46 minutes as opposed to like the 43, 44 normally. And like, there's a lot in the end where like, we've already seen this. Like, we just spent the last 6 weeks, back in 2005, 2006, whatever, watching this. We don't need this much recap, I don't think.
Obviously, they find them on the beach, and obviously she shoots Shannon. So, like, we just, like, the shooting Shannon thing, you literally just saw that. So, yeah. Big Letty things in this one. Letty mentions she doesn't have any kids.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But Letty doesn't have any kids at the time of Lost, so that could be true, right?
It seems like she wants kids. Like she seems kind of wistful for it.
You're right. It's interesting to see her be the Jack role too. You know what I mean? Like she's clearly the one in charge.
Like they kind of have three. Like I wrote down that there's kind of three different like partial Jacks. Like there's like we open.
So
on
yeah,
Letty.
because Libby I think is her name, right?
Yes, Libby. So
She's
Libby's
a doctor.
kind of like, yes, she's kind of medical. We got Mr. Echo, who's kind of like, things need to get done. I'm going to do things that need to get
Rachel
done.
kept telling me that she thinks that Echo is their lock.
He's their religion. I mean, he takes a 40-day vow of silence. There's not much that's more biblical than that.
Yeah,
in this
exactly.
show than that, right? But like that's again to your point last episode why our crew did such a better job as opposed to the tailies where like everything goes wrong is because like what basically Letty or Ana Lucia and Mr. Echo and Libby all kind of do is all like what Jack does. And then there's some of the mythology and stuff and tracking and like Mr. Echo's kind of Locke and kind of Jack or whatever. But basically these three characters, the three main characters at most are like most of Jack and most of Locke together. So like they're already like down a bit, right? And they have what we find out like the Goodwin, like he's a man on the inside, right? Like he's like a mole. So
Goodwin was there. Like didn't they have like Evan on their island?
Ethan.
Sorry, yeah. So they planted a guy with them too, and then yeah, they figured out. It was we were laughing really hard that like Letty was like, "Got to dig this hole," and then like 3 minutes later, it's like a 12 foot by 12 foot hole,
Hey man, she's motivated.
and she just builds a prison. And I was like, "Man, you're on an island. Like, how are you gonna build a prison immediately? Like, that's your first thought?" But I get, I guess
I
if
think
there was,
they're 3 weeks in. I think maybe by that point they're pretty far in, and like shit is going wrong. Like shit is breaking bad, and she's like, we need to do something. And she's so convinced that Nathan is evil, like he's a mole because he like took too long to go to the bathroom. It's like, well, I can see where you're coming from, but also like let's pump the brakes a little bit.
yeah, she's a huge skeptic. She's a little trigger happy.
Oh yeah,
Is what it is.
which
She's
we see literally with the trigger.
Yeah, she's a little jumpy. The other, what is like the list, like the cool kids list that they had going on there?
I don't know what to say and what not to say and what I remember
Okay.
and what whatever, but like the same way that Hurley had the manifest, like they all just have like a list of everybody. They're basically like, hey, these are the people who like might be valuable or whatever, right? And I don't know, or maybe there might be the ones that are easier to take out or take away or whatever, or maybe you will learn more over the course of the show. You'll learn more about the others. I don't want to spoil that yet, but
Okay.
there's
Okay.
I don't know if we ever really get like a method to that madness, but they're effective in what they're doing because they go from being 23 down to like 6 by the time we catch up to them, right? So
Yeah. Another connection before we get to like the big like lost thing going on here. At some point there's a glass eye. Pretty much like the totem in the first season, not even spoiling anything, the totem in the first season of Umbrella Academy is like a glass eye. And they're like, we have to find out about this glass eye. And like that's like the whole fucking thing.
Okay.
Right? So I was like, oh, I wonder if Gerard Way was watching, like, give a little hint to Lost.
well, I can tell you that that glass eye means almost nothing. Like that's just forgotten. So I think it's probably just nothing more than a coincidence in your brain
Okay.
being open to like connections, like basically looking for fast connections in all things.
Yeah, but it was like, but it's just like the timing of like
Right,
us
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
watching the first season of that, and then they're like, "Here's a glass eye." I was like, "How many times do you fucking see a glass eye on a TV show?" You
Right.
know, like it's
Yeah.
not like that important ever. But then like the main crazy thing is that Boone is calling Letty. Like when he's hearing someone, right? We finally connect that those two are talking to each other.
Yes, with on the radio transmissions.
Yeah, because we remember we had Boone picking up someone, heard someone's voice, we didn't know who it was. Now we see the reciprocal, which is that it was Letty, and she like turns it off, or she's like, like don't answer them, and thinking that it's like people that are trying to out to get her because she's so fucking paranoid.
Yeah, by that point she's like way far gone. She's like, nope, don't even want to listen to it. Like, cause like, how do they know our plans? Like, because Goodwin knows everything, right? He's been with us, so.
Yeah, exactly.
A couple fast connections I have. One very small one that Letty, Ana Lucia, is wearing a wide belt, which I know is just like a function of the time, a fashion of the time, but like we'd spent so much time with Kara.
She looks so Letty in this, like when she first starts with like the like tank top situation going
Yep.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really cracking me up too.
I also want to say that she was channeling her inner Vince and her inner Brian kind of in the interrogation of Nathan. Just, being a cop, but also just being like very aggro, like, no, you're going to learn. Or like, come on, man, it's Nathan. Like, she's wrong. It's not Nathan, but she's kind of like Vincing it in the first movie, right? So.
Yep, exactly.
Oh, so there's when they're burying all of the dead, right? Because there's people who are dying from infections and from illnesses and from whatever, and right, they're just burying. And I just wrote down just Roman's line from 7. Promise me, Brian, no more funerals.
No more funerals, exactly. And the idea that Letty doesn't die is awesome.
Yeah. Yes. I can also now, it can be revealed that you were saying a couple episodes ago you saw kids walking with a teddy bear. You're like, that's got to be Walt, right? Well, there's
No,
other kids
it's the
here
two
now.
kids that were here that
Yep.
like lost their mom, right? And then Libby was taken care of, and then they came and took those kids. So yeah.
Yeah. Not related to Fast and Furious at all, but I didn't realize, I've never realized while watching this show, and this is something that probably a lot of people have talked about, but for a flight that was going Sydney to LAX, there is a startling lack of Australians on this plane. We have Claire,
Oh.
and we have the flight attendant who is with the tailies, and like, that's it.
Yeah. I forgot that we had the flight attendant in this episode, and I was like, oh man, like is she like with the thing? And then she like dies at some point, right?
That might be Cindy, I don't remember, but yeah.
I was like, oh, is she a character, Rachel? And she was like, I don't remember. And I was like, that's a bad sign. You
Yeah,
know?
I mean, there's a certain point where, like, even with 6 seasons of the show, there's a certain point where you're like, well, I mean, and actually, this isn't necessarily true because there's still characters that you have not met yet that become like very important. But like for the most part, when you're this far into a show, like it's rare for a character to kind of stick around. You know what I mean? It's just like,
Yeah, but you have that. We talked about this just filming wise in this in our podcast before. You might have somebody that shows up for one episode as a standout person, and everybody's like, we fucking love them, and they're like, yeah, we need to get them back. So like, then we wrote this huge character arc for them.
yep, exactly. There's just one more, kind of iconic line where finally at the end, Mr. Echo talks and she says, "You waited 40 days to talk." He's talking to Ana Lucia because she's like having like a breakdown, right? She's like, we basically can't go on, and she realizes this is after she kills Goodwin, right? Because Goodwin like she confronts him, she knows it was him, like Fredo, I knew it was you. And he
Yeah.
attacks her, and she has the spike, and she impales him as he jumps at her, and she's kind of like losing her mind, like she's gone, right? I
The
can't do this
impaling was
anymore.
interesting. Yeah, I like that.
And then Mr. Echo goes, he finally talks to her, and she says, "You waited 40 days to talk," and she says, "You waited 40 days to cry," and it's like, whew, like that's heavy, but it's also like kind of Letty, right? Like she can't show emotion because that's just,
She's too badass.
yeah. And also to what we talk about in the back half of this episode a little bit, like her characters are often coded male, and dudes don't cry, and Mrs. Alpha doesn't cry, and like it's
Yep.
hard, but she's a human, right? And like it's a fucked up situation for anybody to be in, and 40 days into a thing where clearly there's like no short-term resolution, like let it out, girl.
I get it, but like if you're also feel like you're the leader, you don't want to like show weakness to the people that you're giving hope to, right? Like if Jack is just over there being like shit's bad and just starts crying, everybody would be like, "Whoa, like shit is bad."
Any other thoughts about the other 48 days? Is this, I don't know, I don't have an answer to this necessarily, but is this maybe your favorite episode? I guess for what we're doing, it's the best episode of the season so far, but
I
how does
agree.
this rank with the other episodes this season 2?
It was so much better to not have to watch Shannon this episode. It was
Well,
just
she
great.
she pops up for a minute at the end, which is just to be bloody in Saeed's arms.
No,
again,
this one
but
was good. This one was good. I wish it was more of a Letty flashback, but having like Letty drive this episode was nice. It made me feel
I
good.
actually want to see here. So Lostpedia season 2. Okay, cool. We do have an Ana Lucia flashback episode. Toward the end of the season, we're going to get
Very
a full episode about Letty. So that's very cool.
Nice. That's
Cool.
what I want to see. I need to know her background story now. Like, I get that we had to catch up with what they were doing, and that it might have been too much to be like, this is what was happening those past 48 days, and like, this is what she's doing as well. But yes, I wanted one of each, so perfect. Thank you.
So yeah, we are about a third of the way. I think this is season 2, episode 7. I want to say so. We're like a third of the way ish, almost. Maybe next episode will be a third of the way through the season. So I don't want to say we're flying through because we're not. Because I know you're going crazy, not being able to binge them, but
Yeah.
kind of flying.
It
through.
makes it harder to watch for me, because like my brain starts forgetting simple shit if I don't like watch them in a series. So
Well, I mean, I guess you could watch ahead, but then the kind of I don't know. I don't
it
know.
defeats the purpose, because like
Yeah.
it's more fun if I like don't know what's happening next when we talk about it.
Between a rock and a hard place, man.
Yeah.
Joe, the last thing to do before we bring in Nico and Kevo is the Fast and the Furious, a minute 81, a minute I called as a Mia quote. She says it twice to Brian. What are you gonna do?
Ooh.
On. Keep on those scanners.
Copy that.
All right, let's go. Yeah.
Okay, we traced the number to the northbound 86, mile 114 outside Coachella. We'll keep the trace open, officer.
Let me see this. All right, I think we're about 40 miles away.
What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
Dom, Letty, Leon, and Vince leave the mystery structure, still don't know what it is, to head after the truck. Brian gets a call. Nextel, presumably, has traced Dom's cell phone number. Brian figures out where they're headed and drives off in pursuit. Night becomes day as the team gets ready to do the heist. And my big takeaway is we have another, like, I don't think I ever realized how many night into day transitions we have. We don't have that quick, like, oh, we're doing 12 hours in, like, 12 seconds or whatever, right?
Yeah,
But,
like essentially like the clock like turning.
but we
Like,
went
don't
from
have
basically middle of the night to, like, kind of morning, like, sunrise to, like, just mid-morning in, like, 8 seconds. It's like, oh.
sunrise is quick, so I get that part. It had to have been like 5 a.m. and they're driving, and then it's like 6 something is like sunrise, and then sunrise only lasts for like 10-15 minutes, and then you're just fully that day.
But we go from basically, like, pitch black to, like, it's morning now, baby. And, like, it's just where have you been? I guess, but I don't know.
So yeah, the rave was going late.
My only other really big takeaway, because again, this is kind of the calm before the storm in a way, where we know what happens to Vince, having seen the movie before, but this is just, I love seeing him psych himself up, just kind of like exhaling and being like just kind of like a fighter, like shadow boxing before he's ready.
Yeah.
He's just kind of like, all right, Dom, let's do this, let's get this, and just pretty cool.
Yeah.
There's only like one real new thing in this.
I know.
Minute, which is the truck. I saw you found what it actually is, but please hit us with some details.
I think this is it, KJ Transport. But I put that link in there because I want you to click it. Go look at this website and see the first thing you see when you open this.
Oh wow! Just
Yeah.
a big old Confederate flag.
It's just a truck with just a giant Confederate flag on the front of it, and I was like, and it's like an early 2000s Flash website.
I mean, it would make sense because if KJ Transport is in this, although is Rogers Trucking a real trucking company?
I don't know.
Because it almost makes more sense that it's not real. Because why
Yeah.
would you want your truck to be either whether it's successful or not? Why would you want to show your truck getting jacked? Is that the kind of in movie advertising you want to be a part of?
It says.
Oh no, this says established in 2007, Curry Jensen Transport LLC. So this is not it, officially not it.
Yeah, I sent you that. I don't think that. Let me see.
Based in southern Utah, which would not be crazy, but it's established in 2007. I wonder if it would be. I mean, I know it's his name, but it would be crazy to think that they named it after this movie. Be like, oh shit, say Hector right now, right? Is back in 2001. He's just I love cars, I love trucks. I want to start my own trucking business. And then in 6 years from now, when he's a little bit older, he's got the capital, he's able to do it. And he's just I'm gonna name it after the truck in the first movie. That would be a stretch, but I can believe it. But it's just also his initial, so that makes more sense. But
Oh, this is cool. Check this out. Oh, it's video game shots. I was like, why does this trucking company have, why is there a picture of a Rogers truck and a KJ Transport truck? And it's just skins for some American Truck Simulator skins for Steam so that you could drive the Fast and Furious trucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was like, this is the actual KJ Transport logo. I finally found it. And it's no, it's just somebody that made it.
Well, I mean, that's when I was talking about making all the teams and everything in MLB The Show and just stuff I've done since then, and Forza too. People spend so much time making logos in MLB The Show or creating exactly the way that Mia's car looks in Fast and Furious to just have in the game that just so that other people can enjoy it. It's crazy the amount of effort people will do in a video game to bring cinematic realism, I guess, to it, but God bless all.
No,
these
but
people.
sometimes this is one of these things where it's you wanted this thing. If you wanted it, I know specifically you, if you wanted this, minor league baseball team logo, for your logo, and you made it, you'd be oh yeah, I just put it up there, and it's such a weird niche thing that you, we would be oh my god, I can't believe you made this, and you're well, I wanted it, and then once I made it, it was why would I keep it to myself?
Yeah. So I have some trivia questions for this minute that are all based on dialogue, and some of them are kind of nitpicky, some of them are kind of numbers based, but I want to get your take on whether any of these four that I wrote down, I don't think it's worthy of having four, but it's all sort of similar-ish.
Let me check them out. I haven't seen them yet. Go ahead.
Roughly how far away are Brian and Mia from where the hijacking will take place? Because after they hear from Nextel, Brian takes the map. He's I think we're about 40 miles out. So 40, I mean, that's not impossible.
Yeah.
It's again numbersy, but it's doable, I think. What highway is Dom on when the trace of his cell phone number is completed? And it's northbound
better.
86.
That's
outside,
better.
when this might be even a little bit better still, outside which town is Dom when the trace of his cell phone number is completed, which would be outside Coachella?
Yeah.
Or who drives the car that Vince rides in for the final hijacking, which would be Dom?
I think the Dom driving Vince is pretty easy to guess.
Because it would either be Dom, Leon, or Letty, right? That's the only options that we could do.
There's only three, and if you had to pick between those, it's definitely gonna be Dom's the one that, because Vince jumps, right? So
I guess it's probably easy to guess, but I don't think it's.
No, but I'm saying if you know that Vince does the jumping,
right?
Which we know just from seeing the movie, that if he's oh, is he with Leon, Letty, or Dom, you'd be oh, well, Dom has to be the one driving him because he's going to do the jump, which is a dangerous maneuver. You want the best driver behind the wheel, right?
I guess so. Yeah, okay. So let's skip that. So then, if we want to get rid of roughly how far away, 40 miles, I think that's kind of a little bullshit.
Yeah.
What highway? I think honestly maybe, and this kind of goes into what we talked about with Thermal. Outside which town is Dom when the trace of? We could use the same answers from before. We could do Thermal, Coachella, whatever we had. Coachella, Palm Springs, Paloma, and Thermal. And just the answer this time is Coachella.
Ooh, two of the same question, kind of.
But different answers. Yeah.
Ooh, that makes them both way harder. Wow.
Yeah.
That makes them both way harder. Wow. Okay, cool. I like that a
So
lot.
outside which town is Dom when the trace of his cell phone number is completed? And the answer is Coachella, not Palm Springs, not Paloma, and not Thermal. Whew, tough.
That makes it way hard. Good call, brother.
Because, I mean,
That's good.
we kind of had the groundwork laid out there, right? So
It's like one
do
of
it.
those things, like, which of these, like, when, I don't know, it's very testy, when you're taking a test as a kid, it's like, at beginning, which one of these colors are they talking about? And then, like, at the end, which one of these colors are they talking
Yeah.
about? You're like, fuck.
The memory test. This is also like Stephen Tobolowsky. What's his name? Oh, God, what's the character's name from Memento? Stanley?
No. Henry?
Hold on, I gotta look it up. Sammy Jenkins.
Yeah, exactly. Remember
Yeah.
Sammy.
Cool. So we are now 81 minutes in, 91 questions. We have. I still kind of can't believe. Like I know in my brain what happens, but like it feels like 25 minutes left is kind of a lot.
Ton. Don't forget that you have the whole, like, Brian catches up with Dom, they race afterwards, and then he lets him get away. I agree. This is the end of the movie, and then there's kind of like an epilogue, like.
Because then there's also there's the credits, which I know, but even like 19 minutes left, right? It's like I'm guessing like this jacking has got to be probably 12 or 13 minutes. It's got to be a long time, right? But if you also count like them calling the phone on the side of the road and Dom looking furious, right? Because this is like
From the time that they leave Race Wars until the car, like, the truck is hijacked.
well, I'm even saying like 12 or 13 minutes still to go.
It happens quick. I would say I'm going to guess like 6 minutes of the truck jacking part.
Because Dom drives away, Brian chases after him. They race for the quarter mile. They crash. Brian gives him the keys. Credits, right? And the credits are like at 100 minutes. So we have like 19-ish, maybe 50-50, maybe another 9 or 10. I think there's like a lot left though, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, because you have the whole, like, him attached to the truck with the arm thing and him swinging across it and then them, like, meeting in the desert. Yeah. Possibly.
But yeah, we're going to get there when we get there. We're going to finish it this lap. I know that. And then we're going to go into the deleted scenes and stuff to memorialize them, including the one that we found a couple episodes ago or whenever. But,
Yeah,
Joe, any
Letty's
other thoughts
garage
about
shop.
this minute? What are you going to do?
I didn't realize how many visually unstimulating minutes there were for what we talk about on the minute. And that was something that I'm very shocked about the more that I watch this and the more minutes we do, is that there's so many minutes that it's just faces.
I'm wondering if in later movies it's going to be better or worse, because I feel like there's so many more cuts when they're more action movies, but it's also like just there's a lot of them just like standing around in a big room like talking about plans, right? Which is
Yeah, but you could always like find cool stuff on the table and stuff like that.
True.
I think it's a product of like the set pieces. Like they have to they're doing a lot of the like work in a car as opposed to like a warehouse.
Yep.
Which makes it different.
Cool. So do you think this might be? I don't want to use this word in the traditional sense, but this might be the worst that it ever is.
You're saying worst for us visually in
Yes.
backgrounds and stuff. I think so.
I think because as the movies get faster and more over the
Budgets,
top and everything,
just
there's going to be
budgets.
more for us to pick up on, right?
I think so.
How many pancakes does Hobbs eat at the diner in Hobbs and Shaw?
Oh, good point. I can't wait to count those. That's a good idea.
Cheat day? Cheat day.
Yeah.
All right, Joe, let's take a break. Let's bring in Nico and Kevo and talk about Fast and the Furious. Enter the Slickster.
Welcome back to Too Fast, Too Forever. This is episode number 118. This episode is brought to you by Kenra Professional Nitro Memory Cream 18 as well. The Kenra Nitro Memory Cream 18 is the first nitrogen-propelled mousse, creating a unique and smooth creme that allows for 3 days of style memory. Nitrogen technology provides a workable no-stick application with an even hold, great for styling, molding, and smoothing down flyaways. Shout out Kenra Professional Nitro Memory Cream 18.
Welcome to Fast and Furious Lap 7. Once again, joining us as they are all lap, we have the co-hosts, question mark, of the Husbands Talking More or Less podcast, right here on the Cage Club Podcast Network. Kevo, Risse, and Nico Vasilo. Hello, guys.
Hello. Hello.
Thank you
back.
both for joining us once again to talk about not only Fast and Furious, but Los Bandoleros.
Which you seem to like based on Twitter today.
I gotta be honest. So, I watched whatever McG music video Paul Walker was in
Yes.
that you guys snuck into
the
this.
turbocharged
And-
prelude. Mhm.
Yeah.
That Power Rangers spinoff, right. And so then I watched the second Fast and the Furious movie, which is a Gatorade ad.
Yeah, okay.
So
Yeah.
I turned on Los Bandoleros expecting not much. I was like, look, if this delivers the beach efficacy of Drunken Love by Beyonce, I'm there.
Okay.
Instead, I was treated to 20 amazing minutes in Dominican.
Yes,
Yeah.
you were. And we will get to that very shortly. But first up, we have an either-or question. Well, we only have one today. And this is kind of all the questions that we have, this might be, it's the most timely, it's the most controversial, it's maybe the most difficult one to answer. Are you two ready for this either-or question?
I'm too ready to... Sure, Risse.
Hit me, just not with a car.
Okay, or a phone.
Ooh, man, that ankle grab. Can't wait to talk about that.
So we have now 3 movies under our belt, all about Brian O'Connor, essentially, right? Paul Walker as kind of the lead in all 3 of these movies. We know that he's been a cop, he was not a cop, he's a cop again, he's FBI, he's all over the place, right?
Right.
We know in 2020, ACAB and all of that, but do you think, is Brian a good cop or a bad cop? Or ask more specifically, maybe easier to answer, is Brian good at his job?
Brian is the best con artist in the entire film franchise because this motherfucker is basically a car-running homicidal maniac and keeps getting hired back by law enforcement.
He's the one with the fast force, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that fits into his powers where he's a con artist.
Yeah.
I agree with that. He's mostly just a con artist who's doing what's best for Brian. I still have so many questions about what happened between Too Fast and this.
Okay.
That he is in the FBI.
I mean, and especially because here we can say that ACAB stands for All Cops Are Brian. I do not think Brian is a good cop, but he is very good at snowing people.
I don't think it's fair to say that Brian is a good cop so much as every single other cop in this franchise is a bad cop.
Oh,
So what's
that's a good
interesting
take.
about that, Kevo, is that when Mike and I were doing Cage Club, we noticed a trend, and I'm sure this is probably actually true of most movies, but we noticed a trend through the first, 30 Nicolas Cage movies where there is literally not a single cop who's good at their job. To the point where, it became a running joke, is any cop in any movie good at their job? It feels like they're all just bumbling idiots, which is fine. Depicting like that, great. But then to the point where we got to Gone in 60 Seconds, where Timothy Olyphant and Delroy Lindo play cops pursuing Cage's crew as they take down all the cars. And we're like, oh, they're not only good at their jobs, they could crack this entire case anytime they want. They're just letting them fall into this trap. And we were so thrown off by the fact that we finally had good cops in a movie that it felt weird. So I think not only are you right, Kevo, about this franchise, that there's not very many good cops at all, but there's not, it seems like most cops in movies, unless it's a cop movie, which I guess this kind of is, they're kind of bumbling in general, which is a weird thing to think about.
I think that really says something about the way that people who deify cops see them versus everyone else, basically. If you're seeing a cop movie, it's because the person who wrote it probably to some degree deifies cops, so you're going to see amazing cops in cop movies.
That's a good answer, though. I like that. That was, maybe Brian's not a great cop, but everybody else around him sucks so bad that it makes him look so much better.
So what I'm going to write down as your answer is good con artist / best cop, bad, in parentheses, bad cop.
Yes, he is the best of a bad cop situation.
Yeah. Let's talk about Los Bandoleros. We skipped Tokyo Drift, as you know. We're getting to that later because chronologically it takes place. I don't know when they retrofitted it, but realistically it takes place after 6. So we'll get to that later. But so in terms of Kevo's question about how does Brian get where he is? No answers. Just fill in the gaps however you want because you didn't miss anything. Brian is not in 3. There's nothing that you missed even later in the timeline. It's just we don't know. He and Roman got the money at the end of the last movie, and now all of a sudden he's in the FBI, right? So who knows what went wrong, but now he's back in LA.
I know there aren't answers now, but will there be an answer?
No.
Or are you saying, okay, continue?
There is no, he's just not in 3 at all. 3 just kind of exists outside this world, and so then you just show back up here and he's in the FBI. There's no real answer.
Terrific. This is my segue. I've got this. Okay, so here's where the movie franchise kind of took an interesting turn for moi.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And in a way I did not see coming, but it turns out I was wrong. This isn't a superhero genre. It's a massive sprawling fantasy series.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in real life, Vin Diesel's obsession with D&D and like how these movies are essentially like all of his movies are kind of like him as dungeon master creating worlds.
I knew that to some extent. I know that he and Joe Manganiello have a Big Muscles D&D club.
He's from Pittsburgh, by the way. How to say it? I'm contractually obligated to mention that Joe Manganiello is from Pittsburgh. So.
Are you also from Pittsburgh?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, that's a cute thing for you then.
Thanks. Thank you.
It would be cuter if it didn't happen all the time, every time. But please, Nico, continue.
Sorry to stop.
I'm contractually obligated to point out that Joe Manganiello was on One Tree Hill.
And also the most perfect movie of the last decade, Magic Mike XXL. But please continue.
So, okay, here's what it is. This should have been the first movie. And I'll tell you why. Fast and Infuriated. All the names are stupid.
Los Bandoleros or Fast and Furious 4?
No, I'm talking Fast and Furious 4, but I need to make this point to explain Los Bandoleros.
Okay.
So this film is essentially A New Hope. It's the story of how they all become criminals together now.
Yeah.
Instead of each being criminals separately. Okay, rewind a little bit further. That makes the first 3 movies kind of like a prequel trilogy, sort of like The Darkening of Brian, right? But that makes this film, because now I got to segue to a different franchise, that kind of makes Los Bandoleros the Hobbit. Of the Lord of the Rings.
I thought you were going to say, like, it's the Rogue One.
Oh, see, it's kind of the Rogue One.
I would say Rogue One.
Here's why it's not Rogue One, though. This doesn't fill in a question that we've always had. This is a story that has its own unique language. Everything up and through now hasn't been about Dominican culture. It's been about Cuban culture. Minorly exploiting black culture across white audiences. And this is a new culture being introduced. And, I'm excited to figure out, does that make Turbocharged the Similarion? I don't know. But I think Los Bandoleros presents something that the first 2 movies and that music video lacked, which is authenticity. This is a really specific thing, but anyone who's ever read comics should do themselves the favor and read 100 Bullets by Brian Azzarello and Eduardo Risso. It's 100 issues. Then there is also an 8-issue sequel, and there's a one-shot. So 109 issues all in, and it's a really spectacular read. It's won a ridiculous number of awards. If you're a fan of Batman, they did one of the Red Hood Hush kind of stories. One time, one of my friends was like, we were talking about the book, and he was like, I love that book too. One of my favorite things is, I swear to God, you can smell the cum when you read that book. You know what I mean? I could smell Vin Diesel's pits watching Los Bandoleros.
Yeah.
It's true. He did say that.
Yeah, I was like, damn, you can smell that when he rolled out from under the car.
Yeah.
Also very impressed with being able to drink a beer upside down.
I was like, how do you do that? That's tongue control.
And I replied, practice.
Yeah. What I will tell you about Los Bandoleros, I told you a little bit of this on Facebook today as you were watching, and this is, as we know what happens to Letty in 4, which we'll get to, this is my favorite Letty. This is the best Letty. This is the most relaxed Letty. She's only on screen maybe for 8 minutes of the 18 here, but it's perfect. Dom is great here. Vin Diesel we know how, explicitly captures these characters' voices and actions in a way that I don't know if it's because of the first 2 movies or maybe in spite of the first 2 movies or what's going on, but he's able to tell this story as a prelude into 4, which is Our New Hope, which is also, as I'm sure you realize just as savvy media viewers, is basically a reboot of the franchise. We were talking about for Too Fast, and also when we get to Tokyo Drift, we'll say the same thing there. Those movies are good and matter and introduce new characters, but can be lifted, because essentially this one is just even if you've never seen the first 3, this is all you need. We're going from here, this is all you need. It's a reestablishing, it's kind of the same movie as the first movie, the same story as the first movie, sort of, twist on that, but it's Justin Lin coming in after Tokyo Drift, or with Tokyo Drift, and then through 6, and being this is how we're telling the story, this is, to a certain extent, my franchise now. Vin Diesel leading into that with a beautiful, small character story, telling the intro to 4 is wonderful.
So I guess I would say then the Fast and the Furious is like the prequels, and Too Fast, Too Furious, and Tokyo Drift are more like Star Wars stories.
Yeah.
Star Wars stories.
That's much better.
Right?
Yes.
That makes Roman Lando.
he imagines himself as Lando, I'm sure.
Now I got to pivot. I know a couple of things about a couple of things about a couple of things because, like I said, I'm a savvy media guy. And there's nothing I can do about the fact that unless you guys are about to tell me that I'm going to get her twin sister, Permishi, I have to assume Letty does come back at some point.
Wait, hold on. I just want to make sure. Like, I know what you did, but I want to make sure that like Letty is a nickname for let or allow. Permishi is a nickname for permit. Is that right? Like permission?
Yes, sir. Yeah,
Okay,
you
correct.
got it.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Cool. Okay.
Okay.
I called her Stoppy before.
Oh, which I thought was the best thing ever. Oh, and I can't wait to tell you about how the last minute of the movie made me scream at the top of my lungs because I got something I said I wanted in the first one. So
Okay.
we will get to how the heart of the race can now drive, and I could shit myself. That was the best moment in the movie. So no, it wasn't. Most of the best moments involve Vin Diesel's arms. I do believe that my gorgeous new boyfriend comes back.
Yes.
Han?
Oh, I'm in love with Han.
Yes.
I am deeply in love with Han, and I understand that Han has to go at some point. But I believe I understand that Han gets to come back at some. Evidently, Han get permission. So I am aware of those things. I also know that my precious favorite film franchise director will come on at some point. One of my favorite film franchises ever is the Conjuring verse.
Okay.
He
I'm
does
an
7. James Wan
enormous-
does 7. Yep.
I am an enormous Conjuring fan. I'm excited to get to one of my favorite actresses to ever join franchises, Charlize, to show up because
Yeah.
I don't care what anybody says, Prometheus is perfect.
Yes,
I mean, it's
I love
horrible, but it's perfect.
We were just watching Alien the other night, and so when you mentioned that, I was, wow, you're in my brain.
My entire office is filled with Alien. Alien is my favorite film of all time. There's nothing in this world, save for like Alien, that I love as much as X-Men or Daredevil. Alien is a lot about the desire to achieve humanity and accessibility in a world in which people are very disconnected from one another. And I see echoes of that here in Fast and Furious in an interesting way. I don't know.
Aside from like kind of not breaking my heart, because like there's certain things like we're going out of order, going chronologically to sort of try to preserve a surprise or a twist or a something that we didn't think we were going to be able to surprise you with, but I guess I hope the how of it is a surprise. But we'll get to that when we get to that. But
Yeah.
Los Bandoleros, Fast and Furious number 4, the heart of the race. Also, I can't believe that we've been talking all this time, given your affinity toward comics, we have not brought up Wonder Woman herself, Gal Gadot, in this movie. Let's talk about her
Yes.
too, but please, I would love to know if she has a nickname, what you thought of Fast and Furious number 4
Stoppy.
overall. Whatever you want to say, please, just as the time normally happens, the floor is yours, both of yours. Hit us with, where do you want to begin for these two properties?
Did you like them? Did you like 4?
So one of the things, this was my favorite of the 3 films so far, but I probably liked Los Bandoleros more than I liked the movie. I thought one of the things that was interesting is this functionality. So this movie functions on the idea that you understand that commodities are in many ways as valuable as money.
Okay.
Because of that trade, fuel acts as life, and fuel powers the cars. Cars are life. Life is blood. There's this
Yep.
sort of like you are your engine kind of vibe. But I think one of the things that I found that Los Bandoleros had that the fourth film didn't maintain was a sense of honesty. There was something neon fast food culture hyper saturated about the fourth movie. And you know what? They cut some of the stuff I didn't like. The racing scenes were more about story function than shiny CGI in
Yep.
this film, which I appreciated.
We take a pivot
Also-
here. Yeah.
I also really appreciate that he got psychic powers.
Psychometry.
His
yeah.
automotive psychometry is incredible.
Yeah, his Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes moment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, the Furious Force just evolved.
It's
Yep.
funny that you reference Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes because as soon as we saw the GPS stuff, I said to Nico, "Oh, this movie came out between Iron Man 1 and 2, so they are copying Jarvis." Got it.
Ooh, speaking of exploiting women, this movie had some real, this movie had some real serious issues when it came to representing lesbians and homosexuality as a fascistic accent on a culture. You can go and fuck yourself with that.
Well, so it was in the first movie too. Like both in the first movie and I think the second movie and this movie, they have women making out
To the point where it's almost a trope. Like we look, is there women making out in this
Yes,
for no
it
reason?
is.
And
Yes,
it's bad.
It's bad, and it was the worst in this film by
Oh, yeah.
far. That's part of why I feel like I'm shocked that these two movies we watched, I'm shocked they didn't come later. If you told me they made that first one as like a low budget movie on break one day, like I don't know, the fourth movie really makes the first ones seem like, so they're still doing this Mr. Peanut is dead, and now there's Peanut
Baby Nut?
Jr.
Yeah.
We don't say that so we don't get on a list. And it's Mr. Peanut Jr. And Mr. Peanut Jr. is now 21 years old.
What?
And he's inviting you to his birthday party. He
Yeah, a
wants
thing
his
happened this
birthday
week. Yeah.
to be nuts. B-Day Be Nuts is the hashtag for the event.
Where is this going?
A friend of mine shared this and I commented on it. This is so bad. I literally feel bad for the people involved. That is kind of maybe a little bit how I feel the fourth Fast and Furious reflects on the first.
I wasn't
Okay.
expecting the second Fast Furious to have more heart than the fourth.
Yeah.
When this one came out and when we were starting this again, I told Joey that this is my least favorite one. This one was the one that I was dreading rewatching a bunch of times, that I didn't like 4. As we watch it in sequence and over again, and you see that it becomes the cornerstone for what 5 and 6 become, it gets better in retrospect.
Yeah, I described this one to you guys the other night as an odd duck because it's doing a lot of work that you're not really able to see yet.
Yeah.
But it's pivoting the franchise from being a franchise about cars, to an action franchise. It's reestablishing, because Vin Diesel is not, spoilers, Vin Diesel's not in the third. Nobody that you know from the first 2 movies is in the third movie. It's a completely
However,
separate
I know
story.
Han is. I do
Yes.
know Han is.
Yes, correct.
And
Yes, he
I
is.
fell in love with Han the minute he showed up.
Same.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah.
I called him the Slickster because he just seems like the kind of guy who slips in, charms his way through whatever, and charms his way right back out before you even knew he got
You
in.
have no idea how good you are at picking that up.
When you see a character whose cultural identity is outside of the main cultural identity that is being showcased, right? So one of the things we were told is that the gearhead aspect of the Asian culture of racing is a little bit more hardcore than it is, like, part of the way that the Latino culture showed it was like having fun and being yourself and bright colors. But we were shown that Asian racing culture in the first film was very monochrome and severe. So, you know, they're even trying to create depth and they're trying to create culture along some sort of line, right? And so for him to be able to be so, hey, what's up? And like laid back with this crew immediately tells me optically that he is going to be a character who can subvert trope. So that immediately gets me interested in what he's going to provide to the narrative. And then secondly, that Dom showed him respect in sort of like a deference tells me that in Los Bandoleros, which Vin Diesel wrote, tells me that to Vin Diesel, Han is someone to respect.
That's what's really interesting about the release order versus chronological order, because in 3, like, Han is, if you asked everybody, like every Fast and Furious fan, who their favorite character is, I would say maybe 50% would say Han. Like, Han is just, as you will see, the coolest character. 3 takes place after 6, but because 3 already exists in the world, they're like, hey, we want more Han. We don't know the history. Like, we kind of get a little bit of an allusion to it in Los Bandoleros, like, oh, I caught up with him in Mexico, but I've never been east of the Atlantic or whatever, right? Like, we kind of know the history, but he just, if you're watching chronologically, as you did, he just shows up, and then he's at the beginning of 4, and then he just goes away. And it's a weird blend, but you know, if you've seen these in order, you've already known you have a Han story in your back pocket. So, like, you are right, and we are going to get more Han very, very soon. Just not yet.
Well, that makes me happy.
Yeah.
He's easily the coolest character. To have, like, the coolest character in this franchise turn out to be this Asian guy, like, is so awesome, right? Like, everybody's like, who's the coolest character in Fast and Furious? It's Han, every time. And you caught it in a very, very short window of just seeing Los Bandoleros in 4. But, like, he just exudes cool the whole time he's on screen.
What I did not appreciate, however, was the fridging of my precious Letty. I don't like Michelle Rodriguez characters as a rule. She is unfortunately typecast as, for my money, an unlikably aggressive character. And because she's so frequently coded male, I can comfortably say if the characters were men, I still wouldn't like them. That I love Letty makes me so excited to root for this character. Having her fridged off screen really, really bugged me. Because the problem is the definition of fridging involves killing a woman to further a man's story. I'm not just saying, oh, a woman died off screen. The whole purpose of her death was to further his story.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't see a body. She was working for the feds. So, I mean, like, they just kind of pulled her out real quick.
It is a very kind of bold, and I agree with all of that, and like, I was saying to you that like my favorite Letty is Los Bandoleros, and so it really hurts when you watch them back to back, like I did today. You watch the two like over a 2-hour span to have such a wonderful relationship, and then 11 minutes or something into the fourth movie, she's gone. It is frustrating. I do think, and I wish it didn't happen to her, but it's a bold narrative choice to kill a main character kind of that quickly into a reboot, because they're reestablishing, like, hey, you might have seen the first movie, you might not have, but like there's been 2 since then. You might not know Dom, you might not know Brian, you might not know Letty, you might not know Mia. We're kind of telling
Rule!
Well, yeah, that's a question. Do you think that the narrative could have been as satisfying if instead of being Letty, it had been a different, perhaps male member of the crew from the first movie?
I like this idea, but who could it have been?
Who is Douchebo Baggins?
the really aggro one.
Yeah, the one
Vince.
who with the
Vince.
Cuban food. Kill Vince. Take Vince.
There's no way to get around the fridging of it, but I think that just like we were saying in the first movie that the real relationship is between Brian and Dom, it's not really between Brian and Mia. Like, either you kind of, unfortunately, I think, because it's now the franchise is about Brian and Dom together, now opposite sides of the law once again, having to work together, whatever. The way you look at it, if you're telling a story about these 4 people, like you look at the poster for this movie, and there are 4 faces, right? It's Dom and Letty and Brian and Mia, and the tagline is literally new model original parts. Like, hey, this is we're throwing everything out, we're starting fresh here again. You look at the 4 of them, and now that it's a Brian and Dom story like it's always been, unfortunately, you either have to kill Mia or you have to kill Letty. And I don't
Exactly.
Like, you have to fridge someone, and like, it sucks, but the way that they've built it up, everyone else is superfluous. And it sucks, but I don't know how else to do that, telling the story that they want to tell.
I actually want to ask Kevo a question about his interpretation of something. Culturally speaking, in a vacuum, if we take a huge step, I said those words, so drinking game. If we take a look at how something exists outside of itself, regardless of intent, the art exists at the end of the day. Now, we know in some capacity, Letty or Permishi or Stoppy come back and evidently bring Han back, and it's a great day. Now, speaking in terms of the zeitgeist and the kind of behind the scenes, is it still fridging if she ultimately comes back?
Do you mean if she ultimately comes back in the end, or do you mean if there is always the intent for her to at least have the potential to come back, even if there is not always a plan?
I feel like I've made the case that they didn't show the body. She was working with Los Ferales.
Right,
And
exactly.
so I feel like there's a potentiality for the return of my gorgeous Letty. And if she comes back in 6 or 7 or 8 or 9, or if she and I ride through on the Macy's Day Thanksgiving Parade floats, I don't care how she comes back, if it's with me or not. We have to go back to the island. As long as she comes back, does it still count as fridging?
Well, because here's the thing that I want to say as well in response to your question, which is if you're studying a story in a vacuum in the first place, I think there is argument to be made for it's not always the story, it is also sometimes the way it is, for lack of a better word, executed when you are doing something like this. It's the same way that it's not that you can't kill queer characters, but if you're not aware of history and if you're not trying to be sensitive and make sure that you're not doing these things in a way that's gross, I think that overall, Letty's death wasn't in a way that was gross, especially because I do agree that there is the potential that she could be out there. I think they've laid a lot of seeds already, whether they had planned it from this point or not. And I think that those are important factors.
What are the seeds? What are the seeds that you see? Like the no body thing?
Yeah, pretty much.
And do you think is that a factor of the Game of Thrones era that we live in, or is that something that you've seen? Are there earlier examples of that in a franchise? Because it feels like Game of Thrones specifically was like, "Hey, we never saw him get his head cut off. We don't know that he's
Melrose
actually
Place.
dead."
Yeah, let's we're gonna go back. So George R.R. Martin has long stand the Uncanny X-Men by Chris Claremont. There are references to the X-Men in Martin's work, and there's references to Martin's work in the X-Men as early as 1986. In fact, George R.R. Martin contributed 2 pages to an X-Men special in the 80s at the request of Chris Claremont.
I had no idea. That's awesome. Okay.
A lot of the things that are unique to Game of Thrones are maybe unique to Game of Thrones in as far as the execution within a genre and medium. There's not a lot of new ground in terms of a serial that plays against expectations. One of the reasons classic Dickens novels are so well loved is because they were written to be published weekly in the paper, and he needed to keep making it so interesting that people had to come back. And we've just gone back, collected them, and cleaned it and streamlined it. For the most part, a lot of Dickens' work remains excellent because he was a terrific narrative storyteller at adjusting on the fly. It's led to some works being changed after the fact. Great Expectations has a different ending now than it originally did. The original ending was not satisfying, and instead they went back and they created an ending that reflected what people ultimately wanted. One of the things that Fast and Furious relies on as part of its narrative filmmaking is it relies on old serials. It really likes this idea of the car movie birthed of the 1950s cool guy kind of vibe, and it does kind of trace back to the comments I made about Rebel Without a Cause and Rush Rush. We're looking at an interpretation of an entire genre of cinema, cool guy in a car, where that's his superpower. His superpower is that he's as strong as his engine and his tailpipe's just as wicked. That's the idea behind this masculinity as car as power film franchise. I think what winds up happening with Fast and Furious is because it's relying on so many narrative tropes that can be recognized from other film genres and other media genres, it's hard not to see that they're going for every ridiculous thing. I believe we made that argument about how in the 7th season of Boy Meets World, we're surprised that it didn't turn out Topanga was a witch, right?
Yeah.
If you told me that Letty can do voodoo, everybody knew Letty does voodoo, right? She's Santeurian. Like, if that was the story, I wouldn't be surprised. They want us to suspend some amount of disbelief for the sake of a ridiculous story allowance, and I'm in, because they don't take themselves that seriously.
You're right. They give us a lot of outs, and you'll see that as we keep going, the suspension of disbelief, they like drag you along slowly to give you more and more suspension of belief to not question where they're going and like not question the chaos of it all. Like it starts in reality and it just built, because like, you know, we started stealing DVD players like 3 movies ago, right? Like that's what we were doing. So it's just gonna.
Oh
keep
my god,
getting...
those TVs!
Exactly.
Knowing where the franchise goes, knowing where Letty or Permishy's story goes, how Joe is saying like they string along believability until all of a sudden we kind of lose believability at a certain point. It's hard to like respond because knowing where things go and knowing the things that you're saying that are either right or wrong, but also each of these watching at a time in an installment and sort of trying to figure out where it goes from here. I think that's why doing an entire lap of this podcast with people seeing it for the first time is so interesting. At its face, I mean, I think you know that like Michelle Rodriguez, the actress, is in some form reassociated with the franchise again. You also, as the viewer, don't know how that happens, and if you're taking this movie at its face value, she's dead. And to all the points you said that she maybe we don't see a body and whatever, but it's a like I think that's the most fascinating thing, the most interesting thing to me about this podcast is being able to follow this journey, especially with 2 guys like you who are so well versed in narrative storytelling that it becomes a can you decode what we're actually seeing.
And you know, talking about decoding and reinterpreting something you said this is taking it from a film franchise about cars to an action franchise. I think that was no more made apparent. Like, so the first couple of movies had mostly combat fighting, other than Roman and Brian basically trying to blow each other.
You still felt like shit.
Yeah, they were trying to felch each other. It was bizarre. This is the first movie where these guys are like, okay, first of all, Vin Diesel's Dom is just such an incredibly dynamic character. I only wish that the sound engineer on this movie understood how to mic a deep-voiced person.
This is it. This is when he becomes, like, Dom. Like, he is always Dom, but, like, in 4 is when he becomes, like, the Dom that you get. Yeah.
The problem is just that, you know...
It's amazing, but sometimes it's trying to understand what he's saying because they don't know how to mic somebody.
Oh my god, I need the subtitles on! So, with Dom's transformation and Brian's transformation from driver in a car movie franchise to action hero, we saw a couple of particularly aggressively violent moments. Number one, the hottest thing I have seen since Captain America tore a log apart is Dom dropping an engine on somebody and grabbing the chain.
Yeah, I know.
That
right?
was erotic. I thought the slam head into wall on Brian's part was pretty glorious.
Oh, yeah, when that Fed guy grabbed him, that was
Stasiak,
awesome.
yeah.
Number 3, I said it before, and I'll say it again.
Bring it up.
That ankle grab, though.
David
Oh, no,
Park,
this guy's
yeah.
gonna hit... Oh, no. The ankle grab. I mean, at the end of the movie when Brian grabs Phoenix's ankle, and Phoenix is like, I'm gonna get away. Oh, I don't think I'm going to get it. Oh, you just crushed me with a car. I'm dead.
Oh, I know. I thought you were talking about the hanging out the window Dom ankle grab is what you were excited about.
That's just sort of action movie.
The impaling him with a vehicle is great, though. Like,
Yeah.
Brian holding him and then jumping the car into this guy.
The only thing that I need to comment on that I didn't like was the phallic-ionic contrast of the situation. Number one, we can obviously say that these cars act in some regard as a phallic measure of these gentlemen. So the fact that he kills him with the car and then says pussy,
Why did you remind me? I was going to forget.
that's just not an attractive touch. And I understand the language of the culture we're talking about. And hey, you know what? If I'm going to shit on this, I'm going to shit on Iron Man again. This is between Iron Man 1 and 2. So, you know, Iron Man as a franchise to the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a franchise still wasn't even at its barely passable with women yet. There is still enough misogyny and, like, the only things Jordana Brewster did for the first hour and 42 minutes of this movie were ride Brian and have anachronistically long hair.
And frown.
I'm going to ask you a very important question related to this. What is Gal Gadot's character's name?
Oh, wait, Sylvia?
Lady.
Sylvia, no, hold on, no, because they say...
Oh, Giselle.
Giselle, yes, I knew it was something. I knew it was like, because I was like Sylvia, and then I was like Giselle, and I was thinking Pokemon. No,
Wait,
I was
but
never
how do
going to
you
get there.
How do you know her name's
Who
Giselle?
says it's Giselle?
Oh, Wikipedia. I only know because of Wikipedia.
Oh, I knew because it was subtitled. She
Oh,
said
yeah.
something, and brackets appeared around the off-screen name and said Giselle.
What I caught this time for the
Interesting.
first time is that, like, 20 minutes into the movie, Brian is in an FBI meeting, and they're showing what they at that point think is compost. Really, it's Braga. And they're showing his known associates, or they're showing somebody's known associates. Maybe David, I don't remember. But they have on screen Giselle Yashar. So her name is in this movie on the
They
screen.
just don't say it.
They never say it, other than the subtitles. They never put it on. It's on screen for like
Yikes.
literally a third of a second, and she is in the movie for probably 35 minutes. She's great. Like, Giselle is a great character, but what are you doing?
It is specifically that she is credited as Giselle in the subtitles off screen when she's narrating to the guys in the cars doing the stunt driving that was clearly for a video game simulator. The captions there for like 5 solid minutes. So if you watch this with the captions on, you see her name a bunch.
Okay.
Because it is never
But
spoken.
then her
once in
name
this
still
movie.
isn't spoken, which is bad.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I'm not defending shit. I'm literally saying
Oh, no, I
the
know.
only reason I know why.
Like, I figured Kevo would know from just reading stuff behind the scenes, but, like, I kind of wanted, like, while we're talking
Yeah.
about Jordana Brewster not having anything to do, like, almost worse than that, or maybe worse than that, is just giving a major character kind of like the lieutenant to the villain. Like, we have Phoenix, and then there's pretty brunette lady.
Ooh, and I also know the woman who was working with Brian, Liza Lapira, I think her name is. She was on Dollhouse. She was in Don't Trust the Bitch in Apartment 23, starring Kristen Ritter. She's very funny. I think they do say her name, ironically.
She's a great character who's also given almost nothing to do. She's just kind of like she's not the secretary, but like they treat her like a secretary, I guess, because she's a woman.
There's basically enough for 1.5 women in this whole movie.
Yeah, and speaking of things that I'm like confused, where was the black best friend accessory?
Not in this movie, a very, very white movie.
Unless a person of color or a person who is a minority is being utilized as a trope figure in that role, they don't seem to appear much, and that's really disappointing. That's part of why I'm like washing away the first 3 movies. I haven't even seen Tokyo Drift yet, but I'm giving it the wave. It's because I have hope for the future of the franchise.
Well, what I will say is the first 4 movies, to a certain extent, are, to use the metaphor you've been using or you've been comparing this to, Iron Man, Thor, Incredible Hulk, Captain America. And then Fast 5 is going to be the Avengers. And so I just want you to keep in mind what they're doing, whether or not they know that yet, whether or not they're building toward a thing like that yet. Fast 5 is the Avengers.
You're making a lot of promises, right?
Yeah, he can stand by those. I back him up.
And also, just keep in mind that when I ranked my movies, when you guys did your MCU ranked, and I still don't understand why Infinity War is the best, I have the Avengers. I think the first Avengers is the best MCU movie. I still think that, and I still stand by this comparison, just so you know. So I don't want to overhype it, oversell it, but Fast 5 is the Avengers in almost every way.
Okay.
What did you guys feel about the Campos is Braga, Braga is Campos?
Were you surprised by that reveal?
Twist.
No, in fact, so here's what happened. Because they didn't say her name on screen for so long, I kept saying to Kevo, I think Gal Gadot is going to be Braga. I said it like 6 times, and then it was the dopey guy that looked like he would have been playing the hapless best friend in a 90s romantic comedy, and I just didn't get it. He seemed to me like he should have been the best friend on a sitcom.
I don't know if you know a ton about her, but what do you think of the Giselle character so far?
Oh, wait, she's in more?
Maybe?
I nothing her? Because here's the problem. For me, just that she's kind of like, I am going to do sex at you. And, Dom is just kind of like,
Nope.
and she's like, I'm going to do sex at you with some accent. And he's like,
Maybe.
Oh, God.
But nope.
and she's like, I didn't want it to have to be like this. And he's like, are you getting more progressively over the top as this film goes on?
Part of my problem with Giselle is that she exacerbates the
Lady
fridging.
problems.
Yeah, she exacerbates the Letty problem, because not only is it bad enough that they kill Letty like a third of the way into the movie, but now Dom is flirting with another woman while he is on his revenge rampage to get revenge for Letty.
We've talked about that before. We've talked about how they're replacing her with another brunette, but at the same time, he's describing his dream woman, and she says, that doesn't sound anything like me. He just says, it ain't. Like, he's describing Letty. Like, Letty, he maybe is being flirty, but I mean, he's just a friendly guy. But I do think consciously he's not, like, if he wanted to, he saves her life. Like, she's throwing herself at him the entire movie. He is, for whatever reason, whether it's because he's still not over Letty or he's on the vengeance kick or whatever, he is keeping Giselle at an arm's distance.
And I have to say, something about Los Bandoleros did seem to suggest to me that perhaps Dom and Letty have an open relationship.
Thank you!
She
That's what I
doesn't
was trying to
seem
say.
at all annoyed that he was making out with someone else.
Yeah, Joe has said that a lot. Like,
I've said that a lot.
He says that Letty is just disappointed in his taste in other women.
Yeah, she doesn't seem mad.
Because she says it explicitly in Los Bandoleros. She's like, I don't want to taste them, but she doesn't seem like mad that it's happening. She's just like, okay, I'm here, and when I'm here, this is me. But like, whatever you do on your own time is you, and that's fine.
I want to dial into something for a second. Now, I'm going to pivot from Giselle to Mia. We started talking about Mia and then really quickly moved on to talk about other women, and I can't help but think that is an incredible metaphor for Mia. Mia behind the wheel looking like a motherfucking bamf at the end of this movie was the highlight of the film for me.
Driving Dom's car.
So fucking hot. Oh, Jesus Christ. There's that scene where Brian and Mia are having a high school fight. I don't want to go to prom! Right? They're having such a childish argument.
Which one? Is this in the diner or is this a different scene?
Whichever time he said leaving you was the hardest thing I ever had to do. And I said to myself, you know what? I wonder whatever happened to Daisy Fuentes or Maria Menounos, because for all that he even brings her up, she could have been any tan actress that we were meant to forget from the second fucking movie. What a disrespect to that character.
What if Too Fast, Too Furious doesn't exist?
What if it's Brian's cocaine dream?
Yes.
They went to like a boys' weekend, and Dom is like, "Nah, man, that's not Roman. That's me. Why did you keep calling me Roman all weekend?"
No, Roman could have been there. He went and he
he's
hooked up
real.
with
Okay.
Roman, and they went on. Well, because Roman's going to come back. You know that.
We will go into this in more detail because we're still playing through the game. But the Fast and Furious Crossroads game weirdly makes Too Fast like super relevant. Like of all the
Super
movies, they reference Too Fast more than any other movie, and we're like, wait, what? It's a very strange, like, it's welcome and appreciated, but Joe and I, like, every time they reference, like, a specific thing from Too Fast, it's like, okay. So, like, maybe Too Fast is just a cocaine-fueled dream by Brian, but, like, it has become wider canon thanks to this new video game. And it's weird, but welcome, but weird.
What if, like, the turbocharged prelude ends and Brian's in Miami and he just goes on a bender? And, like, that's what the movie was, and then he, like, wakes up and
exactly.
he's like, oh, shit, now I'm in the FBI. I'm in 4.
And
Like,
if the movie had gone on 5 more minutes, he would have wrestled a mermaid.
We talked a lot about fridging. I think we need a phrase for what happens to Mia, because, like, she's not killed. Maybe it still is fridging. She's not killed to advance the Dom story like Letty is, but she is there to just basically be like, hey, Brian, maybe you're not a good guy, maybe you're a bad guy. Like, what is the equivalent of fridging for, like, ethically or morally, like, changing someone or making them realize, hey, I'm kind of a criminal.
Yeah, no, there's a term for it. Sexy lamppost with a post-it.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
If a woman's entire role can be played by a sexy lamppost with a post-it on it that
God, that's
conveys
good.
everything she needs to convey in the entire scene.
Although I do feel like in this case, like, he just needs a mirror. I don't even think he needs a sexy lamppost. It's just like he just needs to look at himself and be like, oh, I am the bad guy. Like, it's basically that one shot
That
from
meme of
from
the guy
Turbocharged.
looking at himself in the mirror.
Yeah. Ugh. I don't want to spoil anything. Mia's character, like, I love Mia's character, and I think because
She's
I
great.
identify as Mia because I am kind of the den mother, but, like, the Mia character arc is not a good one. Like, there's, like,
I'm
I
so
can't
happy
even, like,
to be your
tease-
Dom.
I can't even tease things of being like, it's gonna get better, because, like, for Mia, it doesn't really get better.
Never, yeah. Even
But
to the
she
point
has
where, like,
a car
on the...
now.
Well, she had a car in the first movie. She drove once in the first movie.
No, but she didn't drive in the first movie. She drove in the first movie. Here, she drove. And I know, like, she didn't, but she's part of a prison escape. And, he looks so hot when he's like,
Yeah, this is my stop. I gotta keep mumbling.
like, that is just, he's so hot. He's stupid hot. And, like, I really would appreciate it if he could just keep an extra 10 pounds a little bit all over. Just like
He'll get bigger.
almost
He'll
like
get bigger.
But I want like cocoa butter, just like a few extra fat pounds here and there,
Okay.
right? Because like when I heard that The Rock was cast in this film, I just assumed he was playing Optimus Prime. I don't need Vin Diesel to have the shred. I've got The Rock for the shred.
They shred off for a little bit.
But I need Vin Diesel to have a little bit of chub. He looks so good with a little bit of chub. He looks great shred, but like just that little bit of like, oh yeah. You look so good. You deserve that beer, buddy. You deserve that cookie.
We said for Too Fast that when people rank the movies, Too Fast is toward the bottom. This is another one that's almost always in somebody's bottom 3. So it's not like there's not things to talk about, but like in the grand scheme of things, this is one that people like less. So I don't want to. I know you guys are like really invested, but I also don't want to scare you off by being like, hey, these first 4 movies, you love them all, right? Because like weirdly, maybe not weirdly, they rocket to like superstardom in a hurry. But this is one where it's like, yeah, I'm not crazy about this. So just keep that in mind that like if you don't wholeheartedly love these movies yet, you're not wrong.
Well, and I think what I like about these movies is what I like about the Conjuring universe. I like the potentiality of a universe willing to poke fun at itself a little bit. You need to be willing to laugh at how dumb you are if you're a car racing movie a little bit. Like, you can't actually expect me to believe that Brian would be able to get Dom off. Well, I expect that Brian knows several ways to get Dom off. Pistons firing, lube injection. So, let's be clear about that. Brian, like, literally says, all right, it's my family or it's my life. life of crime it is. Because he can't come back from this. If he comes back from this, I'm done in a good way. But like not in a good way. Like I'm not quite Shirley Manson shit in her boyfriend's cornflakes, but I'm like I'd piss in your gas tank.
Wait, is that from a garbage song? What's that? What song is that from? Or is that a real thing that
It's
happened in real
from
life?
when her boyfriend said to her, "I'm breaking up with you because your band is never going to go anywhere." So she shit in his cornflakes and left.
Well, she was right twice.
It's a good move. Yeah.
Yeah, like directly in the box and left it on the table.
Love it. Love her,
Yeah.
love the band, love that story.
I do think that version 2.0 is the perfect record, and it is important to note that on the tour that she did in support of version 2.0, and on the accompanying Lilith Fair winter dates, which also featured Missy Elliott, if you can imagine that, Bill, Garbage and Missy Elliott.
Whoa.
Garbage would have her come out and do You Look So Fine, and she would play it solo acoustic on this sparkling purple guitar that caught the night sky perfectly.
Love that. Love that.
Based on what they were just saying, do you think that these movies get more serious or less serious from here on out?
Oh, less serious, by far.
You think they get less serious?
This is, well, so
I'm trying to debate it in my head, and that's
I
why
think
I'm asking
the
you.
stakes rise, but they also
Okay.
poke fun at themselves because there is nothing more.
Okay.
And we've had past guests like there's no movie more dour in this franchise than this one, and there's no movie that takes itself more seriously in this franchise. I don't think than the first one. I think that these first and four, 1 and 4, are the ones that are just like. We know that we're kind of doing like a weird kind of dumb heist movie, sort of, but like the stakes matter. Bringing in Roman, I think having Roman be this kind of goofy character, doing all the things that it does that I don't want to specifically talk about, I think that they get more serious in that the stakes rise and like what they're doing matters more. But I think that they're also more willing to poke fun at themselves. I think like Nico or Kevo said before, taking itself a little bit less seriously and kind of leaning into like the stunts that you know are coming. Those don't happen in these movies. Like in a serious movie, like you don't do what we know is going to come.
I like that point, that the stakes get higher, but the seriousness kind of drops off. So as the movie, like gravity-wise, gets more serious,
Yeah.
they also poke more fun at themselves.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah,
I
I
think you
mean,
have
but that's symptomatic of the genre. Iron Man #1 has these incredibly serious tones of sexism and this idea of white man empire and legacy, and these nodes of I'm literally torturing you in your own home in a very personal, private way with your own technology. Fast forward a couple of years and it's I'm a big purple man and I wear a big glove and I'm gonna snap my fingers and your family are gone. So it's like the stakes do rise, but inherently it depersonalizes while creating more of an emotional connection.
I just imagine Thanos doing that song number, and it was incredible.
Look up in 1987 or 1988, they were trying to make a Captain America musical, and there was an advertisement because It's a Bird, the Superman musical, had just happened.
Okay.
It's a Bird or is it Up and Away?
It's Hey Superman, turn off the dark.
It's yeah, you're amazing. But if you look up the comic book advertisement for Captain America is looking for a young girl to join him on stage in a tap dancing musical review of
my
Cap's
God.
life,
Oh my
that
God.
advertisement just put Thanos in that.
Oh god. Yeah, like the Spider-Man Broadway show that never happened because everybody kept getting hurt.
Oh no, it happened. It
did?
just, killed some people.
Yeah, no, it was bad. No, they did a bunch of previews and like
Yeah.
no, but like preview means like they do the whole show. It's just not really open, but like
But
things-
it did
things
run
broke bad in a
400
hurry.
something performances. It ran 400 something performances.
Fuck. I'm sad I missed that.
Yeah, things broke bad in a hurry for that one. So yeah.
For years. It was like in
Literally
production
broke
for years.
people, yeah.
Do you guys have any other thoughts about either Los Bandoleros or Fast and Furious 4? Or are you ready to play some games?
Oh, I'm ready to play some games. Roll me them dice.
Go for it.
21-sided die, 20-sided die.
Well, now I'm hearing Roll the Dice from Super Pinky Mandy by Beth Orton because that was my driving album. So yeah, Beth Orton and William Orbit basically invented trip hop, like Euro trip hop as a genre, and then William Orbit brought it over to America, and Madonna ran with it, and that's how you got Ray of Light and Frozen, Power of Goodbye. That whole sound is William Orbit. Her initial album with William Orbit was an album called Super Pinky Mandy, which is, to this day, one of the most well-respected, oh my god, what the fuck is this sort of groundbreaking sonic debuts. She's had a really eclectic European career. She was John Cusack's first choice for the Catherine Zeta-Jones role in High Fidelity, but she turned the role down. She was the woman that Ryan Adams left to be with Mandy Moore. Her album Daybreaker has a song written by Ryan Adams featuring vocals by Emmylou Harris. So she's like a really significant artist in terms of what she represents and kind of her cross-section of media and celebrity.
I will say, and I will plug here, the only way that I know Beth Orton, I knew nothing about what you just said. I appreciate all of the Nicopedia history, music history there. My friend Bob, who I've mentioned on this podcast before, actually, let me take a step back. So there's a Sirius XM channel called Top 1000 Countdown. They're counting down, they picked a genre, and they counted down like the top 1,000 songs. So it kicked off with alt rock, and they just did 1,000 songs. It took like a week to play, and by the end it was just like, oh, all these songs, like Smells Like Teen Spirit is number one. It's like, it's boring. Like, we know, it's fine, whatever. So my friend Bob, who's on Tub Talk, who I've talked about here, he's the one who got me back into reading, read I'm Kind with him, whatever. He's like, I can do this better. So for the last, 55 days, I've been asking him for 10 songs a day, and I've been making a Spotify playlist of Bob's top 1,000 alt-rock songs.
Can I guess the Beth Orton song?
Yes.
Is it She Cries Your Name?
It's not.
Oh my god, then this person is like my hero. Oh my god, what song is it?
It is Sweetest Decline.
Oh, that's a great song! It's not even the best song on that record for me, but I recognize how Sweetest Decline is a song people really love. I recommend checking out the super deluxe edition of Super Pinky Mandy. It's 2 discs and it involves every recording. Daybreaker is actually one of my top 5 records of all time. It is literally like up there with Tori Amos on like my most favorite records in history.
Wow.
Daybreaker is... And then there's a companion album to it, The Other Side of Daybreak. She had been told that Daybreaker, being about this huge breakup, was so gut-wrenching people couldn't listen to it. She made a happier version of the album and called it The Other Side of Daybreak, and it kicks off with her brilliant acoustic cover of Ooh Child. And from there, she kind of left behind trip-hop and went to a very acoustic sound for a number of years. But her most recent record was a huge return to form, was my favorite record of the year it was released in. I just can't recommend Beth Orton enough. She really is spectacular. I really, not to have gone on such a weird tangent about an artist, but there isn't a bad Beth Orton record.
So it was his number 861 songs, so I apologize if that's too low. I don't know if there's more Beth Orton to come, I don't know. But if you want to follow the playlist, I will plug it here. Bob's Top 1000 Alternative, parentheses, with way more Fugazi than Sirius XM. It's on Spotify. Because we were upset that there was no Fugazi on the Sirius XM's Top 1000, so there's at least one Fugazi song so far, so we're in the middle 400s right now, so by the middle of September, I think, we will be completed with the playlist, but basically the top 100 is going to be, or top 200 maybe, is mostly going to be Radiohead and Blur and Oasis and a couple other bands that he loves, but anyway.
There's a Beth Orton song that we can relate back to this. Mm-hmm. It's called Stolen Car. The lyrics are, one drink too many and a joke gone too far. I see your face drive like a stolen car.
Oof.
It's a pretty bitchin' song that, you could just kind of make a fan video of Brian and Dom lovingly looking at each other from across rooms.
Well, there's no better way to transition into This Ain't No 10-Second Race, a.k.a. boy, do we have a podcast for you, than by talking about Beth Orton for 10 minutes, but here we are. So now, if you'll remember, Nico and Kevo, this is the game where Nico does Kevo's homework and goes on twitter.com, a.k.a. the Bird app, and finds any tweet that he thinks we could retweet and reply to and say, boy, do we have a podcast for you, and that person might, in theory, be interested in listening to the podcast. Joe, I feel like we've not talked about this on air, we had someone we don't know, I think, play this game, but as a person we don't know who has like a private Twitter account. So they recommended our podcast to someone.
Yeah.
That person
so
responded
strange.
And said, that sounds great, but like I don't know what the original message was. So I think somebody played this game without us knowing.
Yeah, so we have a fan out there that like played it. If you are that fan that recommended our podcast that we don't know who you are because you don't write in, please write in and just say hi.
Let us follow you, at least so I can see what's going on, because I'm very curious. Let me review our tweets from last time. So first up, I found younger Asian kid at Choco Days. Feel like pure shit, just want Suki back in the Fast and Furious franchise. Boy, do we. Have a podcast for you. Of course not. Joe, you found Jillian Lightning Bolt LGBTQ S&M at Emo Canadian responding to Kyle O, and she says, have you seen Too Fast, Too Furious? It's already been proven. Brian and Roman are disgraced old gay lovers. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk. Boy, do we have a podcast for you. Nothing. Then, Nico found Paul at Cole Tucker 4202. And then it was a quote tweet, and I think the tweet got deleted, but it was basically something like normalized sex toys or something. And he said, rolling your Hot Wheels across her titties. Boy, do we have a podcast for you. Nothing. And then, can we go 1 for 4? We're going to go 0 for 4. Kevo, via Nico, found gender hack at gender hacker. Begin transmission. Tell 45P3CT to put up the flyers. End transmission. Boy, do we have a podcast for you. Nothing. Wildly 0 for 4. But I found one already. But Nico, you sent 3 tweets, I think?
When Kevin and I first got together, I used to do, like, especially if it was a class where you could do any number of stuff. Here's 7 essay questions, do 3. I just would do all 7, and I would pick the 3 best for myself, give Kevo the next 3, and then just throw the last one away, because that's like kind of how I am. I just sent you 3. Please give me whichever one gets the best response and the most points. Please give Kevo the second best, and if anybody else doesn't get points this week, please give them my third one.
Okay. We are going to do, I think, so there's one that's from a tweet thread from Kale Smith at Movie Kale, and it's a quote tweet about Hobbs and Shaw and Vanessa Kirby. It's about a Shane Black spy movie, and Leach, with his 2 writers, are not at that level.
It says justice for Mia, justice for Letty.
Okay, yes.
Justice
As a
for
side
Han.
note, they stayed away from the Owen Shaw character and barely anything that transpired in the last 3 movies, and that may be for the better, given that fate should have really spawned hashtag justice for Giselle, hashtag justice for Letty, hashtag justice for Mia, on top of hashtag justice for Han. Boy, do we have a podcast for you. I like that this is, like, both weirdly specific and also knowing what happens to these characters, also weirdly vague.
Yeah, I figured all 4 of them couldn't die in one movie.
But it's not even, it's weird. Like, it's not. Like, it's a weird use of the hashtag. I mean, I agree with all the sentiment, but it's a weird use of the hashtag.
So then I found somebody basically just screaming about the fridging.
Yes.
And I sent you guys that too.
Then you found Molly Kenny at Molly_Cools. Letty gets an off-screen death in Fast and Furious 4. She deserves better. Hashtag justice for Letty from February 2018. Boy, do we have a podcast for you.
So then I found the most accurate tweet of all motherfucking time.
You found Dana at Undana. I don't know, I probably said that wrong. There needs to be a at Emrod official Fast and Furious solo spin-off soon. Hashtag justice for Letty. Boy, do we have a podcast for you. And Nico, what I will tell you, it is not really, there's no details known yet, but there's been confirmed an all-female spin-off of the Fast and Furious, ostensibly led by Letty, but we don't know.
What I would actually like is I would like a really in-depth look at Letty as a person from 3 vantage points of her life as a woman. I would like to focus on when she was a teenager and had to have some sort of job. Maybe she worked at a garage when she was young and we see a younger actress play her. Then we get Michelle Rodriguez playing her in the present, and then I want like an older her played by some, awesome older Latina actress, and I want her to be a hit woman.
I think that's how we include J-Lo, right?
I thought the role was going to go to Scarlett Johansson when I suggested it was going to go to an older Latina. So.
Oh my God.
She's got very diverse skills.
She has lots of
She
range.
can play anybody. Joe, you found someone, please. What I like about your tweets, other than they still make no sense, and I still don't know how you're beating me in the game, because it feels like you intentionally go out of your way to find people that should never respond. But what I like is thinking about someone who listens to the podcast, following our Twitter feed, and being like, What the fuck? Like, what?
This has nothing to do with anything.
And
Yes.
like, it's weirdly kind of a spoiler, but also like you would never know how to get to the point.
Exactly. So I found Ashley Lynch says Black Lives Matter at Ashley Lynch, who she's an award-winning editor and screenwriter too, by the way.
Okay.
She's saying, I'm not saying Endgame should have a Thanos musical number, but come on, and then has a gif of them like...
She heard me!
I know! I had to imagine that thought was out there somewhere else, and it was. So Ashley
Joe,
Lynch...
you turn me on more and more every episode. I'm becoming a Joe-mosexual. This is amazing.
I'm not going to impress Nico with this one, but I am going for one that might actually garner a response. I found Grant
Why?
Parker at Grant P Design, because I do think this guy would actually listen to the podcast, which is
Okay.
the point of the game.
Yeah, that's true.
Ostensibly. Ostensibly the point of the game.
I'm just finding great tweets, that's it.
He says, I have officially seen every bit of canonical Fast and Furious content. The upcoming F9 movie next year is all that eludes me. Here it all is, in chronological order. Then he lists over a span of 3 tweets, all the things in order. He says, I don't have friends, I got family. Boy, do we have a podcast
for you.
He's a game designer at Insomniac Games. He has got a Captain America shirt on in his profile picture.
You're right. He's right for it. That's true.
Insomniac Games made the Spider-Man game. Like, it's a great place to be. So there's no wrong choices there. Please, Grant, listen to the podcast.
I just realized that anybody who now goes back and starts listening to the podcast because you guys played this game now has to listen to you guys, like, talk about them and be like, he's perfect for the show.
We've never had that happen, I don't think, number one. But number two, we also play a letterboxed game where, like, in the off weeks when we do another movie that's not Fast and Furious, we play different games and use somebody's letterboxd profile to design games around. And so we talk about their movie tastes for, like, kind of at length in every episode. So, like...
It's like, oh, of course you like that movie, too.
Don't run from the guy. It's not a knife, it's just a mop.
The last game is called Dude, What's My Car?
Dude, what?
My car.
What?
Your car, dude.
You two, I think you've been guessing every time. Nico, you Kobe'd it last time. First guess,
He
out of
did.
the gate. You got it right.
Did.
Do you want to guess or do you want to give clues?
Oh, I want to guess, baby.
Okay.
Okay.
So this is from Hector. We talked recently, Joe, about, like, are we alternating Hector and not Hector?
That's what we thought.
What I did is I just gave Nico a choice between 1 and 13. He picked a number, and I went and I picked that one. So
Okay,
we're
that's
just
cool.
a random choice. So this, he says, a fast battery car pick is the subject line, okay?
Fast battery car pick.
He says, hey, Joey's, and I'll also add in here Nico and Kevo. I got another car pick for y'all, and it's a doozy. And this might give it away. The car is the fastest all-electric car that actually exists. Do you know what this car is?
Is it the Croatian one? Is it from Croatia?
No.
Then no. Go ahead.
Okay.
Continue.
It says, I don't normally like electric cars because of the stigma of the future of electric cars, replacing cars using gasoline or petrol. This, however, will show that electric cars could be fun as any other gasoline car. Here it is. Hopefully y'all like it. Stay fast. Stay furious.
Is it the car from the Fast and Furious game that we were just playing?
No.
The
katana? No.
Does it have a name that is also another functional type of noun?
It's got the make. I don't know what this... Hold on. I gotta see what this is. There's a word in here that I've never... No.
That's a good sign.
No. So the model is a car... Okay, so it's year, make, model, and then modifier. And the modifier is... And then a modifier to the modifier, maybe?
Okay.
I don't say it's a common car. But, like, none of this is, like, weird. Like, I'm making it sound Englishy, more Englishy than it is. The model I've never heard of. I think it's probably a made-up word for this car. The modifiers are normal things.
Is it a car company that we would know?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
It's a 2020 model. It is a
Okay.
German manufacturer.
Is it Audi?
No.
Is it BMW?
No. This is a very sleek and aerodynamic car. I think this will give away the
Jaguar?
No. The rear brake lights go, it's a thin strip that goes all the way across the back, which I think is emblematic of a lot of this manufacturer's cars.
Of a German car.
Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure. I'm almost positive. I think I just Googled that.
Is it a
Volkswagen?
Mercedes? Mercedes?
No. Hold on. Let me make sure that I...
Oh, is Porsche? Is Porsche?
Ooh, there you go. Okay.
Okay, is Porsche. Fire? Is fire in it?
Fire is not in it. There's a word that I've never heard of before, so I don't know if you're going to be able to guess this. But is
Hot
it...
Totsie?
Nope. Isn't it emblematic? Isn't it like a common trait on the Porsche to have like that thin brake light that goes?
That's how I got there, but I thought Porsches were Italian.
Okay, there you go. Yeah.
If I had to guess, I probably would have said Italian too. So I don't think you're
On
wrong.
the supercars, on this, like the like the Carrera GT and stuff, they have that brake light that goes all the way across. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the car itself is. It's a evening. It's kind of a dusk shot. So I don't know if it's white or silver or gray. It's something in there. Maybe we'll call it ice.
How
it's
are we
in
gonna
front of
get us
mountains.
it then?
It's in front of mountains.
Okay.
Is it element related?
Again, the word is not a real word.
Can you get me near it then? Because how the fuck
Is
am
it
I
a Carrera?
gonna guess
Is it a
a
Carrera?
made up
Not a
word?
No, because I would have gone Tia Carrera.
That's kind of like I've come up with my own number.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
the only parameters. Yes.
Okay,
Like-
so it's between 562 and 750 horsepower, between 192 and 201 miles battery only. The model sounds like a bird.
Sounds like a bird.
It sounds like a tropical bird.
Something like a toucan.
A
Okay.
toucan. Is it a toucan or does it sound
No,
like
but
a
it's
toucan?
very close to toucan.
Tucson?
A Tucson? A
No,
Tucson?
you're changing the wrong part of it.
That's a word. Tucson's a word.
Okay, yes, okay.
That's also
Toucan.
thank you, Kevo, for grounding them.
A toucan.
A toucan. That's a good one. Yeah, a toucan.
No, you're changing the
two-
wrong part of the word.
Oh, change the two.
Yeah.
Ooh can, the boo can, the shoe can.
No,
Three
okay,
can.
so here I'm gonna get
Ooh.
you there in one hint.
What?
Chocolate Rain.
The poop can?
No,
poo can?
No, the song Chocolate Rain.
Chocolate rain? No, that's purple rain.
Rain can.
Chew
Oil
can?
can what?
Guys, this is a slam dunk clue.
I don't know. We're not getting it, so it's not a slam.
Try
heard
not
this
to
song.
try not to pull your shoulder, patting yourself on the back for that clue, Joey.
No, okay. So let's take it. Let's dial it back a second because me describing
Yeah.
the car is not going to help. So you have the word toucan. You know that the part of the word can is right, right? So
Yeah.
you take the two and you think of the song Chocolate Rain. Who sang Chocolate Rain?
I don't fucking know.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know either.
It was like the biggest thing on the internet for like a year.
I'm gonna
lame
fucking
people.
wail on you, Joey.
Okay, let me think another way. God, this is such a slam dunk. Like his first name is the first half of this car.
Steve Can?
No, it's not a. Oh boy, it's so close to Toucan. Steve Can is not it. Tucson is not it.
Rebecca Black can.
I will also give a more modern musical reference.
Oh my god.
Folklore.
Oh, Taylor Swift.
Faux Can?
Tay can?
Swift can.
The
Tay-can?
Tay-can. Tay-Zonday. Do you remember Tay-Zonday?
No.
Chocolate rain. Some stay dry and others feel the pain. Chocolate rain. A baby
How do none of you know Tay-Zonday?
Tay's
Weren't you
on day.
you were on the
she's
internet
on
in
deck,
2005?
He's on third.
2020 Porsche Taycan Turbo S.
I bet the Taycan is a real thing because like they've been using like animal names like the Cayman and stuff like that. So like I bet the Taycan is like a real
No,
animal.
if you Google Taycan, it's just all Porsche. I think it's a word they
That's
made up.
weird. Okay, maybe it is.
Porsche. Hurry, hurry, Taycan, come to me.
God.
How do you have a
Porsche,
Turbo S
Porsche.
in an electric car?
Well, you asked the other day, like, how do you NOS in an electric car? It's just the
I'm
same
glad
thing,
you
like,
finally went with an electronic injector. Looks good, man. Wait,
Yeah.
if we go back and we touch on the thing that the car is a penis, if he looks under somebody else's hood, did he roll a dude's foreskin back?
only foreskins run nitro meth.
If you're doing meth through your foreskin, you're gonna lose your dick.
I do want to say, I don't think I said this before, but Joe, remember we were in the beginning. This is an irrelevant spoiler, but Fast and Furious 6 begins with a very, very cool montage. The opening credits are a montage, and there's one shot of Dom in there in front of oil derricks, and I'm like, where the fuck is that from? It's from this movie when he's overlooking the funeral behind him, wherever they are, California, I guess. There are like the oil derricks going in the background. So that's from
Oil
this movie. I
derricks.
never
He's
knew- I
good
never
friends
placed it
with
before.
Steve Can.
Damn, all of you. I'm so glad we're at the end here. Boy, I can't believe none of you know. Please, out there, family at CageClub.me, I can't be the only person on the internet who knew Tay Zonday.
I know who he is, but I didn't know his name. Come on, man.
You who still spends time on 4chan doesn't know the internet.
Nope. No, I mean, like, I just don't, like, you just remember the important parts. Like, you remember
He
Chocolate
hasn't
Rain.
dropped any singles lately. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's what I'm
No,
saying.
but I think he's doing something else.
Being famous for
What's he up
making
to
Chocolate
now?
Rain.
He has an album, Chocolate Rain 2.0. Anyway, Nico, Kevo, thank you so much for joining us. Please
Thank you,
talk about
guys.
any projects you have going on currently that you would like our listeners to listen to.
We are having a great time over on This Is X, which is our nonstop coverage of everything going on in the X books. We have some cool things coming up down the pipeline, perhaps to be announced pretty soon. Keep an eye out on this space in October. We're just kicking ass over
Give
on
us a hint.
HTML.
Give us a shitty hint. Give us a shitty Joey hint that's a slam dunk that we can learn about. Do you have one?
My
Like a
clues
little
are
hint
shitty
of-
by choice. You realize that.
I'm just, hey, man, nobody got it.
Alphabet.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Well, here's the thing. I tell Joey, like most things in my life, like I just kind of run to Joey and I'm like, hey, a thing happened. Joey already knows.
Yeah, fair.
I like having the power. All right, but thank you. So X is for podcast. This is X. Anything else going on? You're in the middle of
HTML. We're
Yes.
killing stuff over on the Fantastic Four. We have an amazing game show up right now. It's a lot of fun, kind of horrifying, but
Did somebody
a lot of fun.
Did somebody win the prize yet?
Somebody did win the prize, and
Okay.
so that's exciting. And then we have 2 more winners we're announcing for our T-shirt giveaway on Sunday. And then after that, we have 1 more giveaway. I'm going to let the guest who picked the giveaway let us know what it is. But This Is X is doing X-Men prize giveaways all summer long. We have guests coming out to celebrate the fact that the X-Men has never been like more successful than really it is right now. As we call it affectionately, Hoxpox Doc Zos of it all has been very successful, and there's a pretty big crossover coming up, and X Twitter is all abuzz. One of the reasons that's pretty important is because everybody currently writing in the X-Men are somebody with a huge Twitter presence, and like I'm not saying a huge Twitter following, I mean a huge Twitter presence. There's somebody who's out there and they're contributing to the conversation every day. This is the first time that like the X offices are nearly exclusively populated with men, women, and gender non-binary writers who have worked their way up in front of the fandom. I just thought it'd be a better idea to kind of honor fandom the same way. So we have guests you've seen posting all over X Twitter for the last few years coming on throughout X of Swords going into December.
very,
That
very,
sounds
very cool.
Awesome. Yeah.
But thank you both for joining us. I hope you are going to enjoy greatly
Always a pleasure.
the Avengers version of Fast 5. So please know that I'm not overhyping it, but
You're not.
Fast 5. No complicated homework next time. No short film to watch. Just Fast 5.
Yay.
Just a 4-hour movie.
It's 2 hours and 10 minutes. There is a
Yeah, no,
director's
these
cut that I think has
movies.
like an extra
Yeah,
minute,
these movies
but
get
like
long.
yeah, they do get long. Well, Joe, on Friday, we've got Strange Days, so check that out. But for all things Too Fast, Too Forever, you can go to cageclub.me, facebook.com/TooFastTooForever, or at TooFastTooForever on Twitter and Instagram. Email us, family@cageclub.me. I can't be the only person out there who knew Tazon Day's name. Please let me know,
No.
family@cageclub.me. Check out our Patreon page at TooFastTooForever.com. And come back on Friday for Strange Days by Catherine Bigelow. I'm Joey Lewandowski.
And I'm Joe too.
And that was Kevo, Risse, and Nico Vasilo of Husbands Talking More or Less and X's Podcast. We'll see you next time right here on Too Fast, Too Forever. Peace out.
Peace out.
You anus piecer.